This story begins with the fact that the Pung family of Hebjia was one of the famous families that, even among the 5 great families, was distinguished by both divine and physical strength. In the past, the huge Pung family was completely wiped out. Of the survivors, only his son remained. The mercenary told him to answer like a great swordsman. How did he feel when only he came out? But the guy got angry and lashed out at the sword-wielding mercenary, telling him to shut up and not engage in useless dialogue. The mercenary asked the guy, did he know that the head of the Pung family himself sent a letter of surrender to the chief? The guy got angry and told the mercenary to cut the crap. The guy got angry and told the mercenary not to talk nonsense. The mercenary said that, and there was only one condition. The chief demanded the guy and the Pung family flag, and Pung Dejek agreed. The mercenary told him not to take those words to heart. After all, of course, Pan's freaks were all dead now. They must have thought that the chief would accept their surrender. The mercenary asked and laughed. After the guy died, there would be no one left with Pan's blood in their veins. The mercenary asked if the boy regretted the times when he followed his family with dog-like devotion. But not only the boy, but all the servants followed the head unconditionally, risking their lives. He must feel that his life has been wasted, said the mercenary. The guy couldn't listen to those words and said he would make the mercenary's mouth shut. The mercenary just laughed and said there it was. That light from the eyes. Bloody light without a doubt. There are those whose eyes are filled with life, even if they themselves stand on the edge of the abyss. The main thing is that the boy knows that before death, even this light fades. The guy said he's not going to let it go. Head mage thinks that's the end of it, right? He can handle you and kill you, so he can rebuild the Pung family again. After thrusting his sword through the guy's chest, the mercenary said that yelling alone wouldn't change anything and said goodbye to the last of the Pung family. Lida on the wasteland guy realized that this was his end. But in fact he knew that the current head of Pung considered him a sacrificial lamb. But the guy remembered that 15 years ago, the past head of the Pung family from Hebjia told the guy to raise his head, and he gave the boy the name of the Pung family. And now he became the sword that would protect the Pung family. The chief's son asked his father why he wanted this beggar with no family name. The boy thought if he was born into the Pung family and he had the power and strength to change the top of the family, would he be able to take it all back and change it? But the boy took all his will in his fist and said it was not yet time to give up. For him, a round orphan, the Pung of Hebjia had become family, and he can't lose her so easily. Taking his sword in his hand, he told Pung Ji that the battle is not over yet, and told himself to open his eyes and protect the Pung family. After opening his eyes, he was surrounded by his acquaintances and told that the 4th master had come to his senses. When he came to his senses, he saw his brothers Jie Wul and Chul Ho. Jie Wul said that the master had finally opened his eyes. The boy thought that the people who had died a few years ago were greeting him. It looked like he had really arrived in the afterlife. Jie Wul said what a relief for them, for the master had been unconscious for 4 days after the attack. The guy asked what the 4th gentleman was, and asked the guys to give him a mirror. But coming to the Pung family ancestral tomb, all the gentlemen were buried. The boy felt uneasy when he saw all his brothers. But it was strange to him because he had traveled back in time and somehow ended up in the body of Pung Musong, who had died during the attack. Did he die in the past instead of Pung Musong, the boy thought? How did that happen, he asked, taking in his face. He was again destined to behold the destruction of the Pung family, thought guy. But suddenly he heard some voice addressed to him, and they asked if the guy had regained consciousness. It was Senior Master Pung Dae-hyuk. The guy came at him with words that Pung Dae-hyuk is a traitor who sold out his family. Pung Dae-hyuk said that the guy must not have fully recovered. Pung Dae-hyuk said that the kid doesn't look good. He told him not to be afraid, because he had already given the order to find out who attacked guy, calling the guy small and that he was sorry the guy was weak in spirit, and said he should have taken care of his health instead of coming to that worm's grave. When Pung Dae-hyuk came home, he went back to beating the guy up. He said he didn't even have any roots. How dare such a trash like that run around in someone else's house, he asked. Pung Dae-hyuk said, just like he was a nobody out of nowhere, he died without even being useful. It's just a pity for the guy who couldn't defend himself and his master. From the beginning, the Pung family name didn't suit him. But what can I take from him, he said. Pung Dae-hyuk, he's not that different from him. This guy was born with the name Pung, but he didn't even know martial arts. and wishing him to take care of his health turned his back on him. The guy said when he was Ji Hyuk, his destiny was predetermined by his background. Now he's a fool from the Pung family. But however, Jae-wool and Chul-ho were there for him, and he told them that he should become the head of the Pung family. The guys heard these words from Guy and thought about it and said that he had a different energy. He is really going to fight for power with the other heirs. Chul-ho told the Lord that it might be rude, but he was too reckless. After all, the other heirs will not allow this to happen. Jae-wool supported Chul-ho's words and said that the fourth master didn't know martial arts and he couldn't dare to join the fight. The guy said the guys are right. He's pathetic and weak at this point, and the guys are necessarily in danger because of it. But Guy asked if they would follow him, because Pung Hyuk is dead. He died in both his past life and this one. Without thinking for a long time, the boys agreed to follow the gentleman. He said that he was the youngest son of the Pung family of Hebjia Pung Musong. Pung Musong sat down on the sofa and thought about what he had. He decided to start his journey with martial techniques. But there was one secret, that Pung Musong was afraid of swords and blood. Because of this, he was unable to learn martial arts despite his excellent physical and energy data. But even though he wasn't the most respected member of the family, he still had Pan blood in him. So we need to see if there's any hope. A month later, Pung Musong was practicing on the training field of the Four Pillars. Jae-wool said that he had changed beyond recognition in that time. Chul-ho said he wanted to be the head of the family, so he's going to participate in the head of the family competition. At the jousting to select the chapter, the sons of the Pung family must participate in an official duel to determine the next chapter. The criteria evaluated during combat are martial arts skill, and even image affects the distribution of power. Jae-wool said that we should have aimed for this from the beginning. Chul-ho asked why he decided to become the head so suddenly. Wasn't it too late for him to come to his senses? When they entered the room, they were surprised to see the fourth heir. They wondered what he was doing here, since he rarely left the house. The guy said that judging from the rumors, he's been studying hard and training lately. Looks like he's going to practice martial arts again. Pung Musong told Chul-ho to wait for him downstairs. Meanwhile, he decided to go to the third floor. Chul-ho thought about it, because only the direct heirs of the family or those who had received special permission from the head could go up to the third floor. It's where all the secret techniques of the Pung family are stored. But right now, he's not strong enough to study the techniques there. As he climbed up the stairs, Pung Mu dreamed of his childhood, when it was difficult for him to climb them, but it turned out that they were very easy to climb. At that time, they seemed insurmountably high to him. In Pung Muson's previous life, he was only able to enter after the Magi had taken over all of Murim. That's the difference between direct descendants and all the others. But as he approached the door, the guards told him to stop and said that they had received orders not to let anyone who was not proficient in martial arts in this place. It was Pung Dae Hak's order. Pung Musong said, if you don't move, there's nothing you can do. And with a sharp grip on their sticks, he threw them in different directions. Her guards could believe how the fourth heir had such internal energy. So they asked the Lord how he managed to use their family's best spiritual technique. Pung Musong smiled and said nothing to them. He said he would go through if they didn't mind. Walking into this beautiful room full of technicians, he immediately found the very book he needed, and it was called The Lonely Spirit of Thunderclaps. King of the Mountains Victory March is the best Pung family moves based on the actions of the King of the Mountains, the tiger. They are characterized by courage and agility bordering on grace. Pung Musong said that he needed to master the Mountain King's Victory March to show his true strength. Pung Musong was not a direct heir of Pung, so he had to learn other techniques. If he could combine the Mountain King's Victory March full of freedom and dignity with his fierce technique, the family technique would become much more powerful compared to the one described in the archives. But suddenly he told Jae-wool to bring him a sword, and a few days later they came to the training field. Jae-wool said that Pung Musong still hadn't even learned the basic movements. Would it be all right, he wondered. At first, Jae-wool was surprised. The fourth heir, Pung Musong, who everyone called talentless, was actually born for martial arts. After using the Fury movement technique, Pung Musong decided to add the Victory March technique, King of the Mountains. Jae-wool asked, is that a sword-wielding technique? Pung Musong said that he made it based on the fierce tiger, and its name is the Sword of the Iron Teeth of the Fierce Tiger. and he wondered where he was now, remembering his memories and his mentor's brother. How he praised him for his hard work. The kid told his brother that he had heard that his brother was leaving to wander, and asked when he planned to return this time. My brother said it was nothing serious. He just wanted to go out for a stroll around the hot spots. There are so many delicious things in the world. The brother suggested to the boy that someday they should go traveling together. The little boy was certainly glad to do so. After a good workout, the guys sat down to eat. And Chulho said that Jiwool seemed to have made a special effort today. Peng Musong thanked her for such a beautiful table. After all, Jiwool had also been restless since dawn. And it seems like she's still worried. What's so special about a birthday party? Just a friendly meal of delicious food. Jiwool was distressed and apologized to the Lord. For this was her first time that no one else had come. Bong So-hyuk came and said that 10 years from now, Bong Musong's birthdays will be completely different. The place, the guests, the gifts, everything. But suddenly he told Peng Musong to come over to him, and asked him why he didn't run out wagging his tail. His big brother is calling him. Peng Musong said that this is Peng's third heir, Peng So-hyuk. His ability and diligence can't keep up with his ambition. That's why he was always compared to the other brothers. He also bullied Peng Musong since he was a child. Peng Mu asked, "What is the third brother?" What did he say? Can he leave out the birthday of the only junior? Asked him. Approaching Peng Mu, he threw insects in his face and told him to take his beautiful gift, and told him to eat without spitting up. Peng Mu said that he came to the birthday party of his younger brother, who almost died, and made such stupid jokes. He's grown up, but he's still smart. But Peng So did not like these words and said to Peng Mu that he had lost his mind. Does he think that being immortal can save you once? After striking his face, Peng Mu grabbed his hands. At that moment, Peng So realized that his brother's strength had always been that of a boxer. When he saw the sword on Peng Mu's belt, he said that the rumors were true. Peng Mu decided to take up martial arts again, and Peng Mu asked him how his training was and offered to fight him if he had the spirit, of course. He said his brother would give him 5 punches. Peng Mu hesitated and said that he thought he would come out the winner since he would give him a head start. That's good. It's time for him to find out where the crayfish are. Peng Mu told him fine, but in return, if Peng Mu won, he would not address him as big brother. Peng Mu abruptly drew his sword and struck. Peng So said that it was very fast and silent. But how the hell did he think about it? Peng Mu asked his brother if he was okay, or should he fight like a girl? The brother didn't like these words and was very angry. And in a fit of anger, he struck several blows. But they were meaningless and he was defeated by Peng Mu. Chul Ho couldn't believe his eyes because now the lonely spirit of thunderclaps was stopped by the fierce tiger's basic technique. Peng Mu took him by the collar and said that he was very pitiful. Nothing has changed since he was a kid. He couldn't fight his older brothers, so he decided to bully his younger brother. And people like him have no right to be called big brothers. And with a clenched fist, Peng Mu punched him in the head with all his might. Peng Mu was summoned to the house of the head of the Peng family. Upon entering his house, the head of the family asked him if he had come. Peng Mu bowed and greeted the head of the family. Peng Mu asked the head if he had been healthy all this time. The head said with a cough that he had been very healthy. Peng Mu said in his head that he really wanted to see the head. It was a pity that he was caught at a time when he was already sick. In order to raise the family from their knees, the head endeavored to perfect the technique of the lone spirit of thunder rolling. The head said that he heard that Peng Mu beat up Seo Hyun. Is that true? But Peng Mu immediately started apologizing to the chapter. The head said he doesn't blame him. After all, brothers always fight. He was just a little surprised to hear that it was Peng Mu who had defeated him. Peng Mu told the head that he would soon stop being amazed by such small things. The head laughed and said he would look forward to it. Peng Mu thought and said how good it was that he had gone back in time. After all, this way he could at least see it again. The chapter said, however, Peng Mu's energy had changed a lot. Looking at him, the chapter recalled the now deceased Ji Hyuk. For the head said that he treasured him very much, and he was like a native son to him. Everything in the family resisted and did not want to give him their surname. And in spite of that, he made him the man of the family. This guy told the chapter he'd be the weapon they could use to protect Pan. He loved his family like no one else. And that was a great source of pride for the head. The head said that he had put Ji Hyuk as a guard for Musung, so that his youngest would look at him and hope that something would stir in his soul. Monthly meeting of the main persons of the Peng family. This meeting is held every month to discuss important family news, and only direct heirs of the Peng family and those officially appointed to leadership positions can attend. But suddenly the first heir stood up and said that everyone was gathered. But this time the head of the family would be absent again, and there was a voice that apologized that he was late. When they saw him, they were all surprised to see him. And it was the fourth heir who said that he was ready to attend the monthly meeting. Jewul asked Chulho where the heir went. The guy said he went to meet the head. When he returned, he went straight to the monthly meeting. Jewul was surprised and asked why he had to go there. Chulho said because it was time. There was silence in the assembly hall at that time, and everyone had a look on their faces that said they weren't happy to see Peng Mu. The first heir wondered when the junior's weak aura had changed so much. It was even said that he had beaten up his third brother, so it was true. Suddenly, without waiting long, the first heir ordered everyone to start the meeting. He said that the supervisor would be the first to speak. The head of the wardens said his report today would be on the progress of the investigation into the attack on the fourth heir. All participants were caught and bound on the spot. They turned out to be warriors, harboring a grudge against their family. And their choice fell on the fourth heir, because he and his guards seemed to them the weakest. Peng Mu knew in his head that it was all a lie. In his previous life, when Peng Mu was killed, it was proven that the third heir, Peng So-hyuk, was behind the assassins. Seo-hyuk lost his influence and couldn't qualify to be the next head. It was later revealed to be a mistake, but it was after the new head was chosen. Did the first heir ask Mu-song what he thought about it? Or do you want to add something? Mu-song said, although he is not the most important heir to Peng, but he was almost killed, and the family doesn't say a word about it. Could it be that someone is trying to kill him? Mu-song thought that it was an insidious plan to eliminate two heirs at a time. And the one who really organized this assassination was of course Peng Dae-hyuk. This incident made Mu-song realize a lot of things. All this time he had been too indecisive. He is the fourth heir to Peng Mu-sung, and he will be competing to be the new head. But suddenly Peng So jumped out and said, "How dare he speak out at all? Let him know his place. They say where you're born is where you're useful, but you can't say that about him. He's lived a miserable life and now he's making a name for himself. Peng Mu, does he think he can get away with it?" Peng Seo asked. Peng Mu asked for a chance to show his skills. Lately, a serious killer has been walking around Hebei, throwing everything into chaos. This killer is called the White Yin Demon. He's already robbed 7 girls of their Yin energy. And according to rumors, he's a master at his craft. No one knows his exact location because of this assassin's stealthiness. However, Peng Mu said that he has learned where and when he will next appear. If the committee entrusts him with the matter, he will certainly catch him and bring him before the committee without any objection. Peng Seo called the guy a scumbag, and took him by the scruff of the neck and told him that he was the one tracking down the White Yin Demon, and that Peng Mu shouldn't venture underfoot. Peng Mu told third brother about it. He said he would take the case. Isn't he the reason they are in such a bad state now? He needs to take responsibility for beating him up. The first heir said it had been a long time since his youngest had pleased him so much, and he said he supported the wishes of the fourth heir. The chief military officer also gave his consent, and asked the deputy head to give him one chance. The second heir had always defended the younger heir, so it was expected. But the head of the military had been neutral, and now he suddenly decided to intervene. So much noise was said by the deputy because of the change in Mu-song's aura. Why is he so surprised, he thought. It's obvious that the tiger will give birth to a tiger cub. The first heir told the deputy, let's give him a chance. He's their blood. And then, isn't any direct descendant of the family eager to get the head seat? Mu-song said that he knew that the first heir would do that. After all, Mu-song must leave the manor so that it would be more convenient to get rid of him. Peng So couldn't stand it and asked what the hell had gotten into the committee. After all, Peng Mu has no interest in family affairs or martial arts. What chance do you want to give him? He asked. Peng Mu took him by the shoulder and told the third brother not to worry. Wedi is not well now, so the White Yin Demon, he will try to catch him instead. What if the third brother still doesn't trust him? Did Peng Mu suggest that he go to the training field again? The first heir stood up and said that on behalf of the head who couldn't be present now, he was announcing that they would allow the fourth heir to capture a white demon so that he could prove that he was worthy of competing for the next head. Pengmu bowed and thanked them for this chance, and said that he would definitely bring the white demon. However, the first heir asked, how was Pengmu able to find out where he would appear next? Does anyone know how he chooses his next target? Pengmu said if the information he had gathered by this point was to be believed, his next target is the Twin Ghost Mountains. This is the location of a small family's fortress, and the head's second daughter is the target. And the two friends headed towards the ghostly mountains. Chulho asked the gentleman if the white demon would really appear in the mountains. After all, this place is far away from the places he has fished in the past. Pengmu said he learned something. All the victims have one thing in common, and it's a mole on the back of his neck. Because it's such a minor detail, it's what gets overlooked in investigations. Of course, without memories from his past life, there was no way Pengmu would have been able to guess and come up with this. In his past life, Peng So-hyuk kept missing the white demon, and the number of victims only grew. Chulho asked, but how does Pengmu know that the second daughter of Sarin Fortress has a mole on her neck? Pengmu said that sometimes rumors wandering here and there can tell a lot. Aren't there a lot of girls with moles on their necks, apologizing for being impertinent? But Yusur hasn't been like yourself lately. Even his speech has changed a lot. As a warrior, he has a lot to learn. How he practiced, how he got that energy, and it's a sword technique. Pengmu interrupted Chulho and said that this technique was shown to him by Peng Ji-hyuk. When Chulho heard this, he was surprised and asked what. But Pengmu realized that he didn't need to say that and told him to ignore it. After all, he just said it like that. But suddenly the guys hesitated and took up their swords. Chulho asked him if he saw something. Pengmu said it looked like he saw something, and they continued on their way toward the shady forest. But Durg, breaking from the horizon, a girl came out, and realized that as they went along, the boys had spotted her. One beautiful morning, in the courtyard of Sarin Fortress, a girl sat on the lawn and delighted in the butterflies around her, while the white demon watched her and said that this girl was the second daughter of the head of Sarin Fortress. But suddenly he grabbed his throat and recalled his memories of his mother taking him by the throat and choking him. But that same afternoon, on a dark night, he snuck up on this harmless girl. And as he tried to grab her, he stopped. Pengmu walked into Pengmu's room and asked him if he was surprised that the mole was disappearing. Turning around, white demon asked. Pengmu said that he didn't need to know that, and asked is he the disciple of the blue ice white demon? Judging from his reaction, Pengmu said that everything was correct. Good thing he was allowed to wait for him here, said the guy. White demon asked the guy is he a mercenary sent by his mentor. Whoever he is, it's not too late to retreat, said white demon, if he wants to survive. Jumping out into the courtyard, the bloodthirsty battle between the white demon and Pengmu began. But the battle could be seen that both of them were strong, and were not ready to time each other. The white demon was very angry, and called the guy a creep and decided to turn him into an icebox. Pengmu said how much energy did he absorb. He thought that Pengmu would retreat, knowing his technique down to his subcortex. As the fight went on, the white demon realized that Pengmu wasn't an idiot, and the guy's masters were not inferior to him, if not even ahead of him. White demon said that the guy's scarlet energy wrapped around the sword was pure yang energy. So he wasn't sent by his mentor, he asked a descendant of the Peng family from Hebei. Pengmu told white demon that he should have thought before rampaging through Peng lands. White demon said, although they are both from the northern clans, compared to the family, he is from Jingzhou. After all, the Peng family are just milk suckers. Pengmu was very angry at his words and used the ferocious tiger's iron teeth sword attack. But suddenly, the white demon fell down and curled up into a ball. But Pengmu felt that his body began to disobey him. He thought it was energy paralysis, but he hadn't expended much energy. And he remembered a memory that said Pengmu Song was afraid of swords and the sight of blood. Heaven gave him the body of a tiger and the heart of a deer, wondering if he could thrust his sword into a human. But by this time, the white demon had regained his senses and latched onto Pengmu's throat. Pengmu couldn't move, and letting go of the sword, he put his fists to work, telling him to unhook himself from it. But suddenly a frightened Chulho ran out shouting to the master. But Pengmu raised his hand to stop and told him not to interfere. Taking up his sword, Pengmu said, "It's his now. He will deal with this lowlife alone." Taking the attack from the white demon, Peng Mu hesitated and said, although this body belongs to Peng Mu Song, but the soul is inside him and he knows how to handle a sword. So he said he could beat him. But the friend stopped and realized that he was already defeating him. Gathering all his energy, Peng Mu performed the attack of the Mountain King's victory march and cut off the white demon's bloody hand. But the white demon again recalled the memories of his mother strangling him and repeating the word dirt all the time. The armless white demon was lying on the ground and Peng was standing next to him. Suddenly, Chul Ho came running out and asked the master if he was all right. He was so scared when Peng Mu fell down. Peng Mu said that there was still some life left. So he sealed his martial techniques by closing off the energy flows. Chul Ho said for being cruel to innocent girls. Why did he cling to the moles so much, he asked. Peng Mu told Chul Ho not to ask questions he doesn't want answered, and not to pry the best time into the darkness of someone else's soul. After all, the soft-hearted might dull the blade of Chul Ho's sword. When he heard these words, Chul Ho did not understand at all. The level of martial arts of the Lord in this bout is not inferior to the skills of the best swordsman. That much is certain. He hasn't been able to overcome his fear of blood and battles yet. But now, Chul Ho is sure that Master will be the next leader. The day is not far when word of him will spread throughout Murim. Peng Mu apologized to Chul Ho and said that he would have to finish everything, and he had to make a stop before returning home. Chul Ho was indignant, why him, and asked where the master was going. Peng Mu said he was heading to the top of the ghostly Twin Mountains. And that night he reached the ghostly Twin Mountains, and standing before the overgrown roots, he began to chop them down. Suddenly he found the tunnel, and said that in the past, White Demon Een, while fleeing from Peng So Hyok's pursuit, accidentally found a cave, near the crevice between the two peaks. There was a rare potion there. His skill had increased greatly because of this. That's why the masters only managed to catch him after there were even more victims. With Peng Mu Song's pure and strong energy flow, he easily mastered the lone spirit technique of thunderclaps. But because he only started learning martial arts now, and he now lacks the amount of energy on his body. For his last birthday, his second brother gave him a 10-year-old ginseng. But even that was not enough to make up for the lack of spiritual energy. And he was also sent a box from whom he felt such excitement for the first time. Chul Ho asked who it was from. Jae-wool said this from someone who sends gifts anonymously every year. He also attaches strange notes to them. Peng Mu said that this is a potion against 100 poisons. Chul Ho was surprised and said it was a potion that could neutralize 100 poisons. He asked who could have sent such a rare item. Peng Mu knew that he was of course rare, but it could not add spiritual energy to him. And to become stronger, he would have to take a different path. That's why he came here. But who'd have thought there'd be a May ice flower growing here? Peng Mu thought maybe the white demon was betraying him. But of course looking at him, he was valuable. However, it only boosts Een energy. It might be useful for a white Een demon using techniques based on it, Peng Mu thought to himself. But the guy uses yang energy, so it's a useless find for him. But suddenly he remembered that someone might need him now, and he thought he'd have to go to faraway places to get it. Thanks to the flower, he didn't have to worry about money. Coming out of the cave, Peng Mu said that he didn't think she would follow him all the way here, and he didn't feel like ignoring her presence, and told her to go out. Peng Mu said he wasn't sure at first, but now he could see it. But he told her to wait for them at Jae-wool Fortress. Turns out the master knew about it, Jae-wool said. Peng Mu said something had been following him since he left the Peng family house. And for sure an assassin sent by his older brother. Jae-wool says that's not what she's talking about. She asks why the master wasn't surprised to see her like that. Peng Mu asked means she wants to know how he understood everything. Her silent footsteps and breathing distinguished her from ordinary people. It was like she was always playing a role that didn't suit her, because she was hiding who she was. Jae-wool said it was amazing that he noticed it. Peng Mu said of course. Didn't they spend more time together than apart? After all, she was always there to protect him. Jae-wool said, as Peng Mu guessed already, she is an assassin. One of the clan of Heaven's chosen assassins. Peng Mu remembered that Jae-wool was from the same clan where the head was an assassin king who was one of the top 10 mercenaries. Their clan is one of the top 3 mercenary clans in Murima, and she's one of the best of the clan. And if she dares, said Jae-wool, even the Lord, it will be difficult to avoid death from her blade. Pengmu said it could be anything, and asked what she really wants. Jae-wool said that the master should refuse to participate in the competition. Pengmu asked if Peng Dae-hyuk hired her, and he said he wouldn't say no, in which case he couldn't give up. Jae-wool got angry and said, "Well, if that's the case, there's nothing to be done." She suddenly attacked Pengmu, but suddenly she remembered a past memory where she held mistress's hand in her tears and cried. It was the lady who told Jae-wool to call her sister for last, like in the old days. Jae-wool told her that she should live, but her last words were for Jae-wool to protect her son Musung. Stopping at her throat, Pengmu told her that she can't do it. He doesn't know how it is with others, but him she won't betray. But suddenly Jae-wool froze and dropped the knife on the ground, saying, "Why do guys always choose the most dangerous paths?" Jae-wool apologized to her sister, for she had to protect the Lord, but it looked like she wouldn't be able to be around him anymore. Pengmu apologized to her for making her worry, but still he won't change his mind. But Verg Jae-wool began to pronounce that Pengmu's late mom was the only daughter of their head. Pengmu thought about it, and his head couldn't gather that Peng Musong's mother was the daughter of the clan head of the Heaven's Chosen Assassin clan. That means his grandfather is the king of assassins. Jae-wool said that the Peng family was very famous, so it was impossible to reveal the fact that the gentleman came from the assassin clan. But Derg Pengmu remembered that the potion against 100 poisons recently received as a gift, and everything else was sent by his grandfather. But the only truth Pengmu knew from his past life was that Jae-wool was really a murderer. After Peng Musong was killed, Jae-wool, who knew it was Peng Dae-hyuk's doing, secretly infiltrated to take revenge and died. But her identity has not been revealed. But nevertheless, all this time she has been trying to hinder and keep Pengmu out of danger. But now she accepts his choice not to refuse to participate in the contest to choose the head. Following the last will of her late mistress, she, Jae-wool of the clan of Heaven's Chosen Assassins, will protect him at the cost of her own life. Pengmu realized in his mind that he had unexpectedly gained a trustworthy associate, and he thanked Jae-wool. Pengmu and Cole Ho left Saren along with the captured White Demon In, where Wool followed them and got rid of the assassins hired by Peng Dae-hyuk. Rumors spread that Pengmu had defeated the White In demon. They were warmly welcomed on the main road in Jeongjin, and finally, as promised, Park Musung, who caught the White In demon, by the authority of the deputy head, he is allowed to participate in the competition. The pavilion of the first master and the house of the first heir of Peng Dae-hyuk were being destroyed all over the place. But Derg the mercenary came to him and said that he didn't think that someone who normally doesn't care about his brothers would be spying on the younger one. What kind of surveillance did the first heir ask? It's just a little interest in this tomboy. The mercenary said that he didn't judge him. At some point, the entire Peng family began to pay attention to the fourth master. The mercenary asked if there was any news from the hired killers. He said that the head of the family, or rather his grandfather, relied only on his grandson. "Grandpa will be very angry," said mercenary. After all, the Peng family should belong to Mr. Ona of Jeonju. A visitor came to the deputy head's office. Deputy to ask how long had it been since their last meeting? "Long time no see," said Gong Sun-jin. He was the regional chief of Muraman. He was in charge of Hebei province. "What can you do?" Gun Sung said. "They're both busy people. The boss is glad they met under these circumstances." Something he didn't think Gong Sun would personally accompany White Demon In to Muraman. Gong Dream said that this demon was more important than it seemed at first glance. He couldn't even imagine that he was the favorite disciple of the Heavenly Ice Demon, one of the 5 great criminals of Sedokian. But the fourth lord managed to capture him? After all, he was a weak child head who couldn't master martial arts, said Gong Sun. The deputy said that Gong Sun is right. But now he's the one who brought a big change to the Peng family. Standing next to the cage, someone shouted his name. When Peng Mu saw them, he said that he was the 4th son of the Peng family. Greeting his uncle and Mr. Gong Sun Jin, the deputy asked Gun Song if he remembered him. "This is Mu Sung." Looking at the boy, Gong Sun was surprised that he had such a powerful aura at such a young age. It was hard for him to even appreciate the strength of his energy. It was the first time in a long time that he felt such strength and power. The last time I felt it was in the genius of the Namgung Hek family. The 4th heir asked Gong Sun if he wanted to work for him. He's going to learn how to store energy, so Gongsun will write a letter of recommendation for him. With that kind of ability, he'll quickly get an important position in Muriman. It is a very good offer, said Peng Mu. But for now he wants to focus on family matters. Gongsun changed with Peng Mu's reply, and as he left, he said that this child would shake all of Murim many more times. That same night at the training field, Peng Mu and Chul Ho decided to fight against each other. As expected, said Peng Mu, Chul Ho's flickering sword technique is lightning fast, and it was a very good duel. Chul Ho said that it was strange that even after a complete failure, the joy of improving the master's skills turned defeat into victory. Zheng Mu says that he still has a lot to learn, and he wants Chul Ho to become stronger. But suddenly came Jie Wul with a book and handed it to Chul Ho and said that it was a martial arts book that she had written for him. From now on, let him concentrate on learning the iron teeth sword of the fierce tiger. In his past life, said Peng Mu, Chul Ho was so dedicated and good at martial arts that other young masters wanted to get him. But he died while remaining loyal to his master, the fourth heir. But the coming future will be different. Chul Ho will not die and will only grow stronger. He will be the one to take charge of the new Peng family security force that Peng Mu is forming. Peng Mu told Jie Wul that she said she had some assassins that could be activated. Jie Wul said there was a master, and asked him that there was some errand or business. Peng Mu said that it would be necessary to get information about the heirs, especially to take care of the first heir and the situation in Heaven's heaven. And if there was anything unforeseen, have her send a message through the Heaven's chosen assassin clan. Peng Mu said that this was his farewell to them, and that Jie Wul shouldn't try to chase her this time. Peng Mu tells Chul Ho that he hopes that when they meet next time that he will be even stronger. Then the fourth son of the Peng family from Hebei, Peng Mu Song, embarks on a 2-year journey of Mu Rim, a tradition for the participants of the contest to choose the head of the family and called the spiritual way of the tiger. When he got on the road, Peng Mu said that he hadn't walked the shopping streets in a long time. It was the first time since he started living as Peng Mu Song. As he became one, he didn't have any free time because he was adjusting to Peng Mu Song's life and practicing martial arts. Since he managed to become a participant in the competition to choose the head, everything is going according to his plan. Although there's still a long way to go, how about asking for a couple drinks as a celebration of the beginning of Tiger's spiritual journey? Peng Mu had heard that there was a good inn nearby, but suddenly, he crossed paths with someone very familiar to him. Even his manners dropped from his hands, and asked, "Head mage?" Peng Mu thought for a moment and said that he had imagined it, but he couldn't help but recognize him. And this is his chance. If we get rid of him, there won't be any war, and we must destroy him here. But suddenly starting to chase him, Peng Mu's body began to refuse to fight. Could it be because of the primal fear of him? Don't be a laughingstock, said Peng Mu to himself. He's been reborn to fear every other person in Krim. This is his only chance to get rid of him. When Peng Mu started to take his first steps, he fell to the ground and couldn't move. All the people gathered around him and asked if he was all right. Someone turned to Black Death and asked him if he thought this mission was too easy. The target is some milk sucker from Pan. On the one hand, he said it even hurt his pride. Black Death, why send them out for some boy? Wouldn't you? The Black Death told him to be quiet because they're on duty. Red Death, said Black's grumbling again. But this guy is a pity, of course. Going up against a heavenly ice demon, knowing that he is the third great criminal. Isn't he crazy? Red asked. Suddenly he remembered a man who had come to them and said that his apprentice had been snatched. He had been sentenced to death and taken away by the members of the Muriman. The man said that he was caught when he was acting under the name of White Een Demon in a province belonging to the Peng family. White Demon, said Peng of Hebei, was a family that had lost all its fangs. It wasn't he even afraid to touch his best disciple, whom he raised with such love, said the man. But suddenly the Red Death came into the tavern and said that he had heard that there was a boy from Hebei. When he undressed, he saw him sitting at the table. The guys saw them and asked each other, "Isn't that the Red and Black Death?" They are the partners, known for their strength even among the Sapa warriors. Their martial arts are excellent individually, but they are truly terrifying when they attack in pairs. The boy said that he had heard that many outstanding masters had left this world because of them. But suddenly the Red Death said he could hear everything. And if they don't want to be killed, go home. Sitting down at the table, the Red Death said that judging from his physique and clothes, He is the youngest son of the Peng family. The Red Death saw that the guy didn't even touch his food and said that he was so young, but he was eating like an old man. Taking the plate in front of him, Red Death couldn't stop himself from eating such delicious food, and offered the Black Death to eat here as they finished with their work. "We haven't had lunch yet either," said the Red Death. "And when they tear that boy to pieces, it'll be even tastier." Peng Mu said that he had searched the whole neighborhood but hadn't found the head of the mage. He was about to have a drink, but it seems that they were sent by the heavenly ice demon. In a past life, Pan remembered these guys were also famous partners. "But bastards like them can't beat him," the guy said. But the Red Death asked the guy, "Is he ignoring them?" Peng Mu said he thought they were sent by the heavenly ice demon. But they came at the wrong time after all. He's in a really bad mood right now. So the guy decided to give the Red Death a drink. And he poured a jug of booze on his head, saying he'd be whining in the next world that he hadn't even had a drink before he died. Before he could even say a word, Peng Mu struck a knee strike at him. But then and immediately his brother Black Death intervened. But all was useless, for Peng Mu's strength exceeded that of the two deaths. So he scattered them to different corners. But holding his chest, the Red Death told the black man to stop pretending. He feels like this mission isn't going to be easy after all. Red Death said he had conceded to him as the youngest, but now it was time to fight properly. The guys fighting Peng Mu were amazed at his incredible strength. They said, how could such a guy have such a perfect skill? But suddenly, Peng Mu stopped to sigh and said that it was a failure to hide the lack of inner strength. He first made a couple winning moves. As expected, these guys are not easy. The inner strength he has is less than the amount of energy they have accumulated in their lifetime. But at best, Peng Mu said that he can still withstand 3 more clashes. And if the fight drags on, he will lose. The battle was not for life, but for death. The deaths attacked him from different directions, but Peng Mu did not give up and fought back. It was even difficult for Peng Mu to move from such colossal attacks from the guys. But still, the internal injuries caused by the reverse energy current were serious. Peng Mu hoped that he would hold out, but it was too risky. After all, his life stood in the balance. The Red Death told the guy that he was losing shape about something, and it looks like the young gentleman from a famous family is finished, judging by how hard it is for him even in this fight. But suddenly the Black Death came up and told the Red one that carelessness was forbidden. Red said he knew, and anyway he'd be over in no time. Peng Mu realized that he couldn't die so stupidly here. After all, he hadn't even started his revenge for that day yet. But suddenly everything changed, and on Peng Mu's coat attack cut the guy's pop. But he felt that he was already weakening and he had to act. Using his inner energy in such a fight, said Peng Mu. With such strength, not only was he unable to become the head of the family, let alone deal with the head of mage. But suddenly he remembered the head asking him if he had heard of a destiny worthy of the name of Buddha, Shaanxi province. After thinking for a while, Peng Mu decided that he had to go there, and putting the bag of gold on the table, he apologized to the master for this mess. Meanwhile, the guy set his way towards Shaanxi province, Datong, and he reached a rocky cave where he saw a man. And going into the cave, he said glory to Amitabha Buddha, and asked his permission to make a little noise to translate his power into something greater. In Shaanxi province, in the center of Taiyuan, some guy asked the salesman if your place was too expensive. The salesman told him to go where his wallet would let him go. When he arrived at the Songhyang Inn, the man entered a beautiful establishment. There was music and idol. He was met by a beautiful girl who told him welcome. And it's been a long time. The girl asked him, was he having his usual chai komtek? If so, she suggested he go to the 3rd floor. When he opened the door to the 3rd floor, he was met by a beautiful and lovely girl. She was surprised to see the visitor. After all, he had not visited them for a long time. The girl asked him how he was going through all this time, but the man said that recently there had been a big fight at his guest house. The girl asked if the damage was serious. The man sighed and said that not a single piece of furniture was left intact, and yet he paid generously for the inconvenience. And the man threw a bag of gold coins on the table. Innkeeper Songhyang asked, is that what she was thinking? Did the little king finally become bolder? Mistress said, and the clan leader of the Heaven's Chosen Assassins clan is in charge of Shaanxi province, Waran. The mistress took the sack with the leaf and asked, so the letter from the 4th Lord has arrived? The man said yes, he left a message inside the compensation pouch. Looks like Jie told him how to contact them. The man said he asked for information on a man he had a personal interest in. When she saw Kyum Unman's name, she was very surprised. She said that he was the one who had become more powerful recently. Why would the fourth master need this man? The mistress wondered. But suddenly she thought about it and said, if it was about that temple. The mistress jumped up and asked where the fourth lord was now. They must hurry. After all, the person the heir is looking for might die in the next few days. After throwing a few punches, Pengmu said it was just as that monk said, and told him that their junior welcomes him, a 1,000-year-old killer monk from Shaolin Temple. But suddenly he recalled a past memory of a guy asking him if he had heard of the Iron Fist from Satacon. The boy said that the fate worthy of the Buddha's admonition, which he obtained at such a young age, was the legacy of a 1,000-year-old monk killer. The monk assassin asked the great swordsman. That's exactly what the guy said. The guy is referring to the legendary Hongyang of Shaolin Temple. A long time ago, when war broke out between Chongpa and Sapa, the monk Hongyan vowed to avenge his disciples and went to the battlefield. But he had committed too many murders, so he decided to leave the temple. And later, he wandered off into the wilds of Miriam. Due to feelings of remorse, at the end of his days, he dug a cave in the rock, using fist-fighting techniques and power attacks to do so. Some truth came to him that was later described in a valuable manuscript. In her past life, it had gotten to Sapa. Pengmu had no choice but to be angry with that monk, but suddenly wondered if it was a valuable manuscript. Turning around and seeing this guy, Pengmu was already angry. It was Sadokian's Iron Fist. He asked if Pengmu knew him. Why did he come here now? Pengmu wondered. Chul Murin said that he had heard rumors about a 1,000-year-old killer monk, so he often went to Yungan Cave. But who knew there was such a place? Chiol Mu asked Pengmu how he found this cave. Pengmu said he just felt it, and told Chiol Mu better back off as this manuscript has nothing to do with Sapa. Chiol Mu laughed and said with a clenched fist that he seemed to have the same goal as him. He asked him how about identifying the true master of the Buddha's edifying destiny through skill. Pengmu said it was a cruel joke. After all, Chiol Mu is a strong man that monk couldn't defeat even once. But sometimes there are moments in life where you have to act. Pengmu said he was a little late in greeting him. After all, he is the fourth heir of the Peng family of Hebei. The man standing in front of the temple said that at last they had arrived, those who would be able to fulfill the contemplative monk's cherished wish. While the battle was going on in the tunnel, Chiol Mu said that he was very impressed with Pengmu. He didn't think Pengmu would last this long. Chiol Mu apologized to the boy for underestimating him. After all, he has good skills for such a young age. Pengmu stood up and said that he didn't like to be distracted by chatter during a fight. He threatened Chiol Mu that he would shatter his fist into small pieces so that he would never be able to return to martial arts again. Chiol Mu smiled and said that he hoped it wasn't a bluff. When he saw the guy's attack, Chiol Mu realized that it would be hard for him to withstand his attack. Chiol Mu said that means Pengmu's said words were nothing. Pengmu, lying on the ground, pondered that the difference in chi energy was too great. Besides, he had yet to recover from the battle with the Red and Black Death. Chiol Mu said since they had decided the winner, it was time for him to take the manuscript. When he turned around, he saw that Pengmu was on his feet and he didn't want to give up. Chiol Mu asks the guy, will he fight back until he dies? After all, his thirst for victory is impressive to Chiol Mu, but the fight is already over. And just accept it. When he attacked Chiol Mu, the guy didn't expect him to dodge. Chiol Mu got angry and said that the guy had asked for it, so he shouldn't complain. Everything turned around and someone managed to hold back Chiol Mu's punch. He was surprised and asked who it was. The man said that he was the one who defended the contemplative monk's wish. And who are you to make such a fuss here? Chiol Mu felt that this man was strong, and thought that the 1,000-year-old killer monk had a descendant, and said he was the Iron Fist of Sadokian, Chiol Mu Rin. And the guy introduces himself as the fourth heir of the Peng family from Hebei, and he welcomes the descendant of the 1,000-year-old monk assassin. If we compare in terms of time in the cave, Pengmu was the first to discover the place. The man told Chiol Mu to retreat. The wooden chest of the contemplative monk must be given to the one who first discovered the place. If that person dies, then the conversation will be completely different. Isn't that the protector of the cherished wish? The man laughed and said he was tough. You can see Sap's dick. Is he trying to play a word game with him? The man asked. Cheol Mu spread his hands and said, would he dare to do such a thing? After all, the 1,000-year-old monk is a human killer. Long ago brutally killed their soldiers from Sedokian. Cheol Mu said that no matter how inevitable the war was, he could not count the victims who fell at his hands. He heard that the monk himself couldn't deal with the aftermath of that war. Isn't his manuscript a way to atone for the wars? Sedokian asked Cheol Mu. So it's time, said Cheol Mu. He has the right to take what is rightfully his. But Peng Mu didn't like that and told him to come to his senses and swung his sword at him. Cheol Mu was surprised to see him and wondered why there was so much energy in the body of a man who had just recently been on the verge of death. Peng Mu asked if they remembered Monk Hungayan's wish. Was the manuscript really meant for the soldiers of Sedokian who had brutally killed the monk's disciples? A friend of Peng Mu said that Cheol Mu broke his promise and researched the manuscript himself, and then just burned it. He did not want to pass on Monk Hungayan's knowledge to the Chongpa members. The monk's only wish was to pass on to Shaolin the knowledge of the martial arts, to which he had devoted his life. Because of his sinful heart, he could not return by himself, so he wanted the manuscript to reach the temple, and the place where the manuscript must return to Mount Songshan. Hasn't the monk missed the embrace of Shaolin Temple all his life? The man was surprised at the guy's words. Peng Mu asked them, what do they think this minion of Sapa's will respect Monk Hong Yen's wishes? After all, it's all bullshit. Striking from below, Cheol Mu said that he wanted to rip out his insolent tongue. But that still didn't scare Peng Mu. Cheol Mu told Peng Mu that, by trying to jump above his head, he had upset the balance of energy in his body. Let him be happy that Seo Hyab didn't die. He's a really annoying opponent. Even though Seo Hyab lost, at least he tried his best. I'll say goodbye now. Man intervened and hit Cheol Mu. But suddenly Peng Mu started to hear some voices from the man. He asked if the kid was okay. After coming to his senses, Peng Mu asked where Cheol Mu was. The man said, aka young Master Sedokian. The busy little guy left while he was out. Peng Mu said with his head in his hands, feeling ashamed of himself. The man told the guy that he was not an easy opponent. There's a moment where Cheol Mu says that the old man still has some powder in his belly, and the punch he threw was great. The old man told him that if he wanted to, he could give him another shot. Cheol Mu refused because if he tried it again, he'd have to have his jaw set. But unfortunately, he said he'd have to back off. Looking at Peng Mu, the old man said, who would have thought that in addition to the swordsman Namgung Hyuk, Chongpa has a younger outstanding person. Cheol Mu asked the old man to tell Beng to have him ready to say goodbye to his life by their next meeting. Peng Mu said it meant they shouldn't cross paths for a while. But still, the guy in his heart wanted revenge. The old man asked the guy what he said his name was. Peng Mu Song? It's already amazing that he found the manuscript, said the old man. But how did he know about the monk's wish? The old man asked. Would you believe Peng Mu if he told what he heard from others? And Peng Mu said he was sure he wouldn't. The old man laughed and said it means we're being secretive, and he's hard to understand. Out of the blue, he risked his life in an obviously losing battle. In Peng Mu's goal, he knew that the old man was right. But if it wasn't for this old man, he would have died here by now. Ever since he lost the head of the mage, he had been losing control and making rash decisions. But from now on, he won't be so reckless. At this rate, he won't be able to become the head of the family in the future. The old man asked Peng Mu to come to him and said that the monk was like a parent to him, raising him and teaching him, and he spent his whole life watching him suffer with guilt. He refused even a funeral, saying he would repent even after death. And that's why his body is here now. The old man took the chest and gave it to Peng Mu and told him to open it. Peng Mu read the note where the monk said that he had been repenting to the Buddha for many years, but the weight of such a sin as murder was hanging on him like a dead weight. He failed to return to Sunshan Mountain. And the possessor of destiny reading this letter, he gives him a diwandan from this chest. And in return, he only asks him to give the manuscript to Shaolin Temple. It's the least he can do, to make amends to those who swore to believe in him and wait. Peng Mu asked the old man why the monk had not entrusted him with the manuscript. If this chest had fallen into Sapa's hands, and that could have happened literally just now. The old man said that's the way he was, so he decided to trust fate. When he opened the box, he said that it was a diwandan containing pure Shaolin water, cleansing energy and blood, and increases chi energy many times over. And now it's yours, said the old man to the guy. But he has one request: if he goes to take the manuscript to the Shaolin Temple, please be sure to tell him that the monk has not found peace even after death. Peng Mu said that this request he would definitely fulfill. While it was already dark and the guy started to look at this orb, the guy said that Diwandan, which is rare to get even Shaolin Temple disciples. Who would have thought it would end up in his hands? The divine power that enjoys overwhelming authority even among the strongest changes the capacity and rigidity of the bowl containing chi energy. And the body that took this medicine would have strong blood vessels and unearthly strength. Because he was afraid of blood, he was extremely lacking in chi energy. Even if he tried to control the fear, it wouldn't be as effective as Diwandan. And with this newfound energy, he can handle fear with ease. Peng Mu needs to risk his life and achieve a state of overpowering strength, which he was only partially able to achieve in his previous life. It is also known as the Gate of Life and Death. If he manages to awaken the power that Dewangdong can give him, he will be able to confront the head of Magio. But he suddenly recalled a past memory of the mercenary asking him if Peng Mu thought that everything would turn out the way he wanted it to. A sword was thrust into Peng Mu's chest. The mercenary said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time, but he said they had met recently. Chapter McGee asked Peng Mu, and why did he end up here? Asked the guy. Mage asked, this night sky doesn't seem familiar to Peng Mu. This is the sky of that day, said Mage. Said Peng Mu died. But suddenly Peng Mu began to hear voices telling him to leave them and run after the murderer. They told him to cut off that scoundrel's hand. Coming up to Peng's ear, Mu McGee was saying that he had killed everyone. Every one of Peng's whom he held dear. His friends too, he means Sape. McGee asked why he didn't follow him then. Scared, perhaps? Would such a weakling really be able to stand up to him? The mercenary asked. Peng Mu said thank you to Chief Mage. After all, thanks to him, he had realized something important. It's true that the boy is still weak, but he almost fell for the inner demon's speeches. If such a thing actually happens, he wouldn't know the truth about the guy being a great swordsman. Wait a bit, said Peng Mu. He will overcome everything, and when I stand before him again, I will definitely defeat him. Where to go now? Peng Mu thought. It would probably be better to go to the Shaolin Temple first to hand over the manuscript. But suddenly he stopped and remembered that he had something more important to do. And that's when some people came running at him. Thanks to the opening of the gate, he could feel the flow of energy in the far distance. And he felt a group of people approaching him. Judging by their movements, they're well-trained assassins. Did Peng de Heck send them? Thought the guy, or someone else. They were the Shadows of Heaven's chosen assassins. Kneeling down, they greeted the younger king. And why is he the youngest? Asked Peng Mu. So he's also a king. The girl said he was the only heir to the head, the king of assassins. She realizes that this is quite unexpected, but she asks him not to push them away. Peng Mu asks who she is. She said her name was Waran, in charge of Shaanxi province. She asked Peng Mu to accept this golden plaque given to her by the head. It gives him the right to command their clan's mercenaries. And of course, all their services are free for him. Only 10 people have such ingots, whom their clan has deemed worthy people of Murim. Peng Mu thanked the Shaanxi provincial leader and asked that she convey his grandfather's thanks. The boy asked why they had decided to visit him so suddenly. It's not just the bullion. But suddenly he froze and asked if something had happened to the person he had asked to find. The girl with surprised eyes asked him how he knew about it. The girl said yes, he is indeed in danger. And the matter was urgent. She would give all the details on the way. The guy thought it was very strange. After all, the events unfolded earlier than in his previous life. A few days later, a group of Kumjok traders passed through the territory of Bliai's Taiyuan, Shaanxi province. A group of Kumjok merchants passed by. Chapter 1. Il wondered what he should do. Although his trip was successful, but he was unable to get his hands on that item. He didn't think that even on the black market, where you can buy the mother of any seller for a lot of money, and at this rate, his son will die. But suddenly his servant came to him and told him to try to keep calm and not to despair. The head of the guard said that the ice palace of the northern sea would have what the head was looking for. And he sent them a message before they left, so it was now, and suddenly arrows flew at them. Who here? Asked the head of security. And a crowd of people jumped out of the bushes and started slaughtering every last one of them. Guys were asking what it was, but they all said they couldn't even get a good look at anything. How dare they attack them? Asked the head of security. and he threatened them not to hope that they would be able to return home unharmed. But suddenly, the mercenary Hell Randu came out. The chief immediately recognized him by his face. When he heard that name, he was worried because he was the best mercenary. He had heard that there were only a handful of mercenaries like Hell. The head offered them a deal. He was willing to give them as much money as they wanted, but in return he asked them to let them go. Chapter: What does Hell Randu think? That he's only doing this because of some papers and coins? But without talking for a long time, he attacked the chief of security. When the chief saw this, he said he was too fast for his physique. But before he could take the blow, the security chief was a meter. The head didn't have time to blink his eyes before the mercenary killed Mu Jin with a single swing of his sword. Hell Ran told them if they had sat quietly in their marketplace, they could have avoided such a fate. And this is what greed leads to. And he told them to go to the other world and reflect on their actions. And with a devastating blow, he thought he was done for. But suddenly, Peng Mu appeared and deflected his blow with only his hand. Hell Ran couldn't believe his eyes. This guy had stopped his technique with his bare hands. What kind of monster is this, and where did he come from? Asked the mercenary. Peng Mu said he was running like a madman and was tired to death. The guy told them, if memory serves, there's a Jokryong clan in Shaanxi province. And in front of him is the head's younger brother. The guy said that the old life rumors used to say that this Randu almost gutted all the members of Kumjuk. And that's why the guy told him to attack. But this time, everything will go according to his plan. And luckily, Randu won't be going to the grave alone today, but with his clan. Randu wondered where this jerk came from, but judging from the fact that he had reflected his sword energy with his bare hands, he wasn't an easy opponent. Was he hiding his energy? Ran can't feel him. If I procrastinate, it won't end well. And Ran wants to destroy him immediately. Peng Mu said that it hadn't been long since he had increased his chi energy. It was a bit difficult to calculate the strength so far. Rando attacked Peng Mu and was surprised by his strength, thinking that he had already reached Transcendent Master. After launching several attacks, Peng Mu said that he had not reached yet, and gave a final crushing blow and won Randu. Peng Mu assumed that he was now able to resist Chiol Mu Ren. After all, he felt a strength that he hadn't felt before. The boy realized if it had been just a little longer, it would have been too late. But it was about time he turned to the clan of Heaven's Chosen Assassins for help. The head told the guy that first of all he wanted to express his gratitude to him, and asked him who the guy was. The guy said he was the head of a group of Gumjak traders, Jiamwul Il, and asked if he wanted to save his son. After arriving at the main building of Kumjuk, the head asked the heir, even though the matter was urgent, was he in too much of a hurry? After all, his son is seriously ill. And if the heir wants to meet him, he must prepare for the meeting. But suddenly the guy saw the room and said, so he's here. But his father blocked his path and said, even though the heir is their savior, he can't just break in. He's overstepping his bounds. The guy apologized to the head for being in too much of a hurry and not explaining anything thoroughly, and putting them in an awkward position. The boy said he knew of the young lord's situation, and returning after a trek south, the boy head was bitten by a fiery king snake. The head was surprised and asked how he knew this. No one had known about his son before, only the head's men. The venom of the fire king snake, which is said to feed on flames, is infused with yang energy. And the guy heard that if you poison yourself with it, you feel like you're burning from the inside out and eventually you die. And to neutralize the poison, you need a medicine that absorbed the yin energy, said the guy, and started to take out a box. But suddenly the son came out and said it seemed like a long conversation, and it was rude to keep guests on the doorstep. So he invited the heir to come inside. Yen Man said that he had heard from the porter his father had sent earlier that the boy was the fourth young master of the Peng family. Ekman expressed his gratitude to the heir for saving his father from a surprise attack, and apologized for his condition. When he hears his name, he learns that this man is Kum Yong Man, who will later become famous as the King of Gold, a resourceful genius inventor who was able to lead a small trading family to prosperity. Both the Murim masters and even the imperial family itself were desperately trying to establish a relationship with him. However, at this time, Kum Yong lost his father to Hellran, so he almost died of grief and illness. If Kum Yong could regain his health faster than in his previous life and become his man, And Peng Mu said it was nice to meet him and apologized for the sudden visit. Kyum Yong said it was fine. He asked the heir to sit down, and showing his hand, he said that the heir had been attacked by a snake and the poison had spread all over his body. His father is looking everywhere for a medicine that has the properties of yin energy, but it is said that the ice crystal that is in the ice palace of the Northern Sea or the 1,000-year-old snow ginseng are effective medicines. But the North Sea Ice Palace does not sell its crystals, and the whereabouts of the 1,000-year-old snow ginseng have never been discovered, even though he's been trying to heal with medication. But if things continue like this, he thinks he's going to die sooner or later. Peng Mu took out a box and put it on the table and said that inside it was a May ice flower. It is a medicine with yin energy that suppresses the poison of the fire king snake. It is in no way inferior to the ice crystal and the 1,000-year-old snow woman. The guy was glad he remembered about Kyum Yong in time, but he was already going to make contact with him somehow. Luck was on his side. The Gold King's help would be needed in the war with McGee that would happen in the future. The guy says he's going to give the box to them, but in return he asks for their help. If he is to become the future head of Peng, and to restore the family to its former power, he will need the wisdom of the Lord. The head took his hand and thanked Mr. Peng. The guy immediately realized that Kyum Yong was now his man. Kyum Yong said it's hard to believe, but if he's telling the truth. Kyumun said he wouldn't accept it. The father was surprised and asked what his son was talking about. Kyum Yong said that he was already indebted to him because his father's life was precious. After all, he's just giving him a valuable medicine without asking for payment. That's why Kyumun said he didn't trust the master. It was unknown how the Lord knew of his condition, as only a narrow circle of trusted people knew about it. It was also as if he knew about the Jokron clan's attack beforehand. Doesn't he think there are too many coincidences? Kyum Yong asked. Kyum Yong said that he doesn't think the gentleman is a bad person, but he doesn't believe in many accidents either. And to that, take your jewelry box and leave. Peng Mu thought about it and it impressed him. After all, Kyumun had put his life on the line not to make a deal with unspecified terms. This is what the Lord expected from the King of Gold. Peng Mu said that he felt he was being rude to Kyum Yong. He said that his grandfather was the king of the Heaven's Chosen Assassin clan. And as Kim Yong knows, the information mining skills there are not inferior to the Hao clan itself. And in fact, through sheer luck, the guy got the May ice flower. Since it wasn't much use to him, Peng Mu looked for someone to give it to. That's when he found out about Kyum Yong. The boy said that he was told not only about the trouble that had befallen them, but also about the attack that was planned for the near future. And so he learned that the clan behind all this, the Jokrian clan, was targeting a group of Gumjok merchants. And as for his family on his mother's side, said Peng Mu, he has to keep it a secret. So he unfortunately hid his source of information from them, and he apologizes for the misunderstanding. But in Peng Mu's mind, he had learned everything from his past life. But he almost didn't lie when he said that his mother's clan had told him about it. He wanted to keep this secret, didn't he? He even refused Hua Rant's offer to escort him to Taiyuan for the sake of it. But to win the Gold King's trust, he must not hide his true intentions. Kyum Yong said that he feels like Peng Mu still has something to hide, but he believes him now. However, he said he doesn't understand one thing yet. What did Peng Mu see in him that he decided to invest in him? After all, he's just the son of the head of a small group of merchants. Peng Mu said that a merchant should know the price of everything, and he had heard the master often repeat this phrase. Rumor has it, Peng Mu said, that thanks to the master, the street vendors were able to become a promising traveling group of merchants. And today he had a chance to see for himself. That young gentleman very carefully thinks over every step and acts prudently, despite the disease that drives a person crazy. But the gentleman has great potential. What do you think about me? Peng Mu asked. Guy asked, according to Kyum Yong, is he worth his trust and cooperation? Kyum Yong said that the guy is exaggerating too much because he's not possessed by a ghost, so he's not weak enough to lose his judgment. And maybe Kyum Yong said that the guy is the man he's been waiting for. And that's the end of the negotiations, and Kyum Yong promises that all the wealth will be at Peng Mu's feet. Kyum Yon's father opened the box and saw the May ice flower, and he was so happy that he cried. Kyum Yong thought about it and said that he was confidently saying that he would give him all the riches of the world. But even if his body healed soon, it would be difficult to keep his promise right away. Pengmu probably already knew a lot of things, so he decided that there was no point in hiding anything now. All the merchants and their groups are in Taiyuan except for theirs. Influenced by the Jocrian clan, related to Sapa. They tried to bribe them, but he refused their offer. And so Jocrian hired a gang of bounty hunters called Mukjin to put pressure on them. And today was the first time they had acted so openly. And so he said a little confusedly to Kyumyong. Kyumyong said he doesn't know how far they're willing to go. But what's already happened is cause for concern. Pengmu asked what happens if the Jocrian clan disappears and all the problems are solved. Kyumyong was surprised by Pengmu's question and said that he thought it could be resolved that way. Pengmu said that he would go out for a while. The head jumped up and asked where the guy was going so suddenly. Pengmu said that he was heading towards the Jocrian clan, but initially let the head say where they were. There was silence in the hiding place of the Mukjin gang, and Pengmu came in and asked if it was the Mukjin gang. But the angry boys asked how dare a boy with milk on his lips call them a gang? The guy asked the guy what he would do if they are the Mukjins. Does the guy think a pumped-up body will help him stand up to them? Pengmu smiled and said, then he is right. So it's true that the hiding place of the rogue gathering is also a guest house. So again, who is drinking in broad daylight? Asked Pengmu. The mercenary did not listen to him for a long time, got angry and attacked Pengmu. The guy threw a single punch at the attacker with tremendous strength. The mercenaries were surprised that the guy had monstrous strength. They asked who he was. The guy said they don't need to know that. If they really want to know, go to the other world and ask Hell Randu. The mercenaries stood stunned at what they heard and asked how he knew Randu's brother. The guy said he didn't have much time. He has to send the entire Jocrian clan to the other side today. So less words and more deeds. A council was held in the Jocrian clan's reception room. The clan head asked, has there still been no word from Hellran? The councillors replied that unfortunately they had not heard from him yet. The boys told the head not to worry, because he would sort everything out and return safely. The head asked the guy, did he just let him yap? And ordered them to send people there. You know he's in a bad mood right now, right? If we don't subdue Kimjok this time, their lives will be in danger. But suddenly a mercenary came running in and told the head that they were in trouble, and asked him to come outside right now. When he came out, he saw his men spread across the room. He asked what happened. The guy said he came to their hideout and did it. The head ordered them to call the Red Sword Squad. After all, he didn't know what was waiting for him, so he decided to take precautions. While in the center of Taiyuan City, the best warriors of the Jocrian clan arrived, the Red Sword Squad. When people saw them, they said they were in trouble for employing these murderous lunatics. And they say they're all first-rate swordsmen. When they entered the shelter, Pengmu met them and said that they came earlier than he thought. And his body wasn't used to killing yet, so he had to drink a little to keep his nerves down. He said that judging from the bandages on his head, he's dealing with red swords? The head of the Red Swords asked who he was. The guy said why do they need his name? And it annoys him so much to answer pathetically every time. The guy said that the fourth young master of the Peng family from Hebei, Peng Musong, was in front of them. Happy? Asked the guy. Pengmu asked, yes, who asks about the name but doesn't specify the reason for all the sudden massacre. But even though this fight is between Kianpa and Sapa, this reason is more than enough. The mercenaries asked him if he had finished his monologue there. Maybe it's time to figure things out. But suddenly they didn't notice Pengmu had disappeared, and they were asking each other. Just now, he was in front of them. When the mercenaries turned around, they couldn't believe their eyes, because they hadn't even noticed that he was behind them. The boy recalled his memories that he had had many such cases in his past life, where he had been discouraged and told that it was dangerous. And to at least slightly reduce the casualties among their warriors, Guy went to fight alone and reduced the enemy swordsman's numbers. But he's more experienced and agile, so the red swords won't be able to take him down. They don't even stand a chance. Seeing the guy's strength, the mercenaries said that it was impossible. How could a man with such a large build be so fast? His lightning-fast attacks, the mercenaries can't even anticipate them to dodge. He blows their squad to smithereens. After killing everyone around him, the boy left only the main one of them and told him to get up. But the mercenary stood up scared and couldn't believe that all of them first-class Jocrian masters had lost to the boy. How could he reach such a level at such a young age? The mercenary wondered. The guy was glad that it was good that one of them had survived. and asked him if he wanted to show him the way. After tying him up, the guy kicked him out into the street. People started laughing when they saw him because he was the head of the Red Sword Squad. The guy told him to look ahead when he was walking. You might fall. The boss said he almost fell, but it wasn't because of himself. People wondered who this young fellow was. And did he really defeat the Red Sword Squad single-handedly? One man said that he had seen him leaving the main building of the Kumjok trading group earlier. Did they have such a young and skillful foreman? The guy asked. The man said he didn't know, but seeing the beating of the squad leader made him feel so relieved. The Jokryong clan was giving their Taiyuan merchants a hard time. People asked if he was going to the Jokrung clan. I mean, what kind of crazy person would go there alone? When Peng Mu came to the door, he asked, "Is this where the Jokryong clan is?" The warden nodded and said yes. The guy said okay and told him to go. He's just not the kind of guy who enjoys senseless killing. The guy told his boss that he had already taken away his ability to practice martial arts. And now he can't hurt people. But if the guy says he catches him in the act again, he'll rip off all his limbs and let him live like a dead mouse. Looking at his hand, the guy realized that it was a senseless killing. The shivering was not as strong as when he fought the white demon Een, but he still hadn't overcome his fear of blood. His condition had definitely improved since his battle with Black and Red Death or Cheol Murindat. If his body got used to fighting, someday it would be fine. Upon entering the territory, the guy said that he had already assessed the situation thanks to the sense of energy, but was amazed that they all came out to greet him. Even their elite swordsmen couldn't do anything, said the guy. Do you think you can take it by sheer numbers, he asked. But suddenly a voice was heard and said, the pride of the stupid young bastard, straight up the sky. And finally they met Peng Mu Run, said leader. The guy asked in surprise, did he know his name? Thank God. The guy said honestly he'd been introduced so many times today that he was getting tired. The angered head asked, is he still messing with him? The leader said that he would avenge not only his loyal brother, but also the White Een demon, the Black and Red Deaths. The boy asked if the members of Sapa always stood for each other, but he was more interested in how he knew about the White Een demon and the Black and Red Death. The head ordered everyone to kill the guy. The guy wondered if they were the servants of the heavenly ice demon. Judging by the ringleader's reaction, the guy was right and said that his chain dogs are everywhere. He's tired of it all. Everywhere he goes, there's an ice demon and his men. Were they enemies with this old man in a previous life? The boy asked. He thought about it and said that the Jokrian clan's attack had happened a little earlier than in his previous life, and perhaps it was because of him. He thought about it and said that the Jokrian clan's attack had happened a little earlier than in his previous life, and maybe it was because of him. The leader asked how dare the boy call his mentor that, and stabbed him with his sword and shouted at him to die. Beating the ringleader with each blow, the guy told him that since he was from Sapa, he should have sat in his own Satakon. But no, they dared to come to Chongpa territory. Not only in Hebei, but also in Taiyuan, the bastards, said Peng Mu. Guy said to everyone here, let them not even dare to think of a safe return. But suddenly the leader stood up, and the guy didn't realize what had happened. After all, his internal energy increased dramatically. Could it be a hidden blood explosion technique? The guy thought. Peng Mu said that he had heard that this technique was like a bargain with the devil, taking away all the energy forever and only increasing the initial amount of energy for a short period of time, so the leader put his life on the line. The leader asked how dare he insult him, the head of the Jokrian clan, and said even if it cost him his life, he would send the guy to hell. The chapter's men just stood and watched the battle and said what you'd expect from the chapter. And the chapter is superior in strength. And take the guy down with one punch. One mercenary said that it's not like that. And by the time the hidden blood explosion technique runs out, the leader didn't understand why his attacks were precise and powerful like a child holding a branch, trying to move a heavy stone. Is this guy really an outstanding novice master, thought the clan leader. The boy asked the head of the clan, why is he lazing around? Why doesn't he put in more effort? He doesn't seem to have much time left. After going through a hail of blows and attacks, the guy was surprised that the clan leader died in the battlefield standing up. So he'd been wrong to get so angry. The mercenaries couldn't believe their eyes, for the guy had defeated their head. They kneeled down in front of Peng Mu. The guy told them that he was letting them go, but let them leave without much talk or movement. After all, he didn't care about them today, he was too tired, and he ordered them not to set foot on Taiyuan. and he told them to tell the heavenly ice demon that he would come for him soon. But these rumors reached the main building of the Peng family, that the fourth heir had personally defeated the head of the Jocrian clan from Taiyuan. The guy told the deputy that, in addition, the fourth gentleman made a cooperation agreement with a large group of merchants in Taiyuan, the Kumjok merchant group, and to prevent retaliation from Sapa, he asks that his warriors be sent to Taiyuan for 2 years, and the reward will be 100 silver yamba, and at the end of 2 years, they will receive 500 silver yamba. The deputy said it would cover their family's expenses for years to come. That boy did the impossible. Qumien asked the gentleman if he was leaving already. Peng Mu said that it had been a week or so. He had been well fed and served good alcohol, and he was about to ask to stay with them for a long time as a freeloader. Qum said they'd be happy. After all, he's their benefactor who saved everyone, his father, him, and all of Taiyuan. He won't even live long enough to pay the Lord. The boy said he was glad that Kim had recovered. Qum said it was all thanks to the May ice flower the master gave him. The head of the merchants said it was true. Sometimes he thought that Man would never recover, and he was so frightened by these thoughts. The head of the merchants said that he had almost forgotten, and he held out the iron plate of the heavenly dragon vault to him as a token of gratitude. The head said that he had made all the necessary preparations and could use it if needed. The guy said he didn't think the head would think of such a thing. After all, he had just run out of money, so he would take it without a second thought. Kim said he would be sure to keep his promise to give him all the riches of the world. Kumjok will join forces with other Taiyuan merchants who have managed to free themselves from the Jocriong clan's oppression, and will be able to extend their influence over the whole of Zhongyuan. 500 silver yams is just the beginning. In the future, they promised to lend generous support to the Peng family. The boy thanked them for appreciating their cooperation. He said that he also promised to become the head of the Peng family, which would be the sword of their merchant group in the future. Qum asked where the boy was going now. He said he was going to Luoyang, even though he's very late. It was a strange girl who said that she finally made it to Luoyang, and Peng Mu now wants to keep the promise he made a long time ago. Upon arriving at the pub, the waiter told the guests that they had run out of ingredients and he was afraid they would have difficulty taking her order. The stranger said, "What did the waiter mean?" The waiter said it means all their dumplings are sold out. The girl said, "No, not this, because this is the most popular Yuzhou restaurant in Zhongyuan, where you can eat steamed dumplings." She didn't have a poppy seed in her mouth this morning. Peng Mu came up to her and said that he had ordered a lot of food, and if she didn't mind, she could join his table. The girl was happy because it's her popularity, already bored to death. She didn't know who the guy was, but he was just in time. At least she could vent her anger. It's true what they say, a hungry man is an angry man. The guy told her so she wouldn't get the wrong idea he didn't mean it. When she sat down at the table, she was over the moon to see the very Yuzhou steamed dumplings she had heard so much about. The girl said it was delicious and thought she would become a regular customer. Looking at the girl, Peng Mu said she was still the same. He remembered how she had suggested that he should definitely go to Luoyang together. When Peng Mu didn't know what Luoyang was yet, the girl said that there is a restaurant she often visits, and the food there is divine, and they should definitely go there. She also said there's alcohol just like Peng Mu likes. But at the end, he only saw her dead in his arms. The girl told Peng Mu that it was delicious, but suddenly she saw tears running down the guy's face. She asked why he suddenly cried. It was because she ate everything, but that's no reason to cry. Peng Mu wiped his eyes and said that he had something in his eye, and it must be that there's a lot of dust. The girl apologized because he gave her a drink and she didn't even introduce herself. He said her name was Dan Waren, and she was from the Dan family in Sichuan. It was unusual for the boy to hear her voice again. After all, in his previous life they were called Sape, because they were inseparable friends. But suddenly she said that the guy was the fourth lord of the Peng family. The guy was surprised and asked how did she know? Danhua said it's impossible not to recognize the Peng family's uniform, and he's a popular person among the young Qianpa masters. Peng Mu asked, is it really like this? Danhua listed the arrest of the White Yin demon, the defeat of the Red and Black Death, and even the incident with the Jocrian clan. He has had an interesting journey, however, said Danhua. Sometimes it is even called the perfect tiger blade. The guy was surprised by the name of the perfect tiger blade. The girl said that it is also said that he looks like a brave tiger when he performs techniques. Looking at the guy, Danhua couldn't tell what kind of chi energy he has. He hides his powers so she can't feel them, but somehow she's sure that the guy is definitely not an ordinary guy. Danhua said that it would be a little rude to ask for such a thing on their first meeting, but she would really like to see the guy's skills. She asked him what was the occasion of his visit to Luoyang. Pengmu said that he liked to visit restaurants where the food was good, and this restaurant was very famous. Watching them, one man began to wonder, because this guest has been sitting in this place for several days since morning. Could it be that he's been waiting for this girl all this time? Danhua said she likes places like this too, but this time her purpose for coming to Luoyang is to participate in a black market auction. Pengmu smiled and was glad that things hadn't changed much from his previous life. The girl said that this market was the place where money could buy anything. The auction is held there regularly, and all the items are very rare, and they invite only those guests who have used black market goods before. And as Pengmu had already told Danhua, her family often uses various poisons. It's said that this auction will include a rare poison that hasn't even been studied by them, and asked Pengmu, is he interested in the auction by any chance? It's a good opportunity to get a rare weapon, a valuable manuscript, or a miracle cure. If he's interested, she said, she can get him an invitation. The guy was happy because he wanted to go with her and she suggested it, and he said he'd do it. But the girl said she had one condition. When she went to the battlefield, the guy asked her if he wanted to fight him. Danhua said exactly, why would she go that far if it was a joke? And suggested that they start, but they should fight at full strength. The guy said she was just as he remembered her. All those poisons, delicious food, and martial arts. And Pengmu was glad to experience such a day with her again. The girl told the guy not to worry, her weapon wasn't poisoned. And with her belly full, she went into battle. Pengmu's nemesis came in and was upset that Yuzhou's steamed dumplings were considered the best in Luoyang and were already sold out. He had no choice but to go somewhere else. When passers-by saw him, they said he looked like a rich heir. The passers-by decided to attack him and rob him, but they didn't think he was that strong. They asked him to spare them. He said he was already starving and he didn't come to Luoyang for that, but he remembered that there was a spicy chicken restaurant nearby, so he decided to have chicken for dinner tonight. Danhua asked the master how long he would do what he did to repel her blows. After all, she asked him not to give in, but the guy knew that he wouldn't give in to her. After all, her attacks are so ferocious that he can't pick the right moment to attack. But suddenly he disappeared, and the girl did not understand where he went. But using the ability, she turned around and saw how he had already attacked from behind. Seeing her turn around, the guy knew it was the Dan family's secret weapon from Sichuan. Even in the Dan family, who are experts in secret weapons and poisons, this secret weapon made in the image of fish scales is considered deadly and very difficult to control. So much so that there's even a saying that in the hands of a master, even fish scales become dragon scales. It impressed the boy, because she had already been so skillful with these weapons in the past. The guy told her he couldn't just stand by and watch. And as he began to use his attacks, the girl didn't expect him to get close to her so quickly. When she felt his blows, she realized that he was very fast and strong. She was glad that he was finally showing his true colors. As she expected, it was foolish to match strength with a Peng family warrior. There was nothing to be done, so she told Mr. Peng to start worrying. After all, it's gonna sting a bit this time. The guy looked around and said he had nowhere to hide, and then he had only one solution. The girl knew that in the open, nothing would work against this technique. Those scales would hit the enemy one way or another. He'd think they were everywhere. She wondered what he would do. As the guy applied his attack, the girl was surprised at the fact that he was calculating all the trajectories of each individual scale. She wondered how it was that such a young master had become famous only now. The boy said that this attack of Mrs. Dan was not bad. He could turn into a hedgehog if something went wrong, and asked her if she wanted to continue. Dan said it looks like she's lost. The secret weapon has failed, and she has no chance of winning in close combat. The guy said he won because she didn't use poison. The girl said they were unacceptable in a friendly fight. Dan said he'd still be hiding his power until the last minute, and they wouldn't have a fight. The guy realized that he was caught, and maybe she was right, but if he hadn't experienced her secret technique in his past life, he would definitely be hurt now. Every scale was endowed with a lot of internal energy because his hands were still aching. Dan told him that he really deserved his nickname, and asked him if he knew about the Dan family's martial arts before. How did he manage to stop the attack? Suddenly she remembered her promise and suggested he go to the black market auction together. But first we go to the market. There is a restaurant nearby that sells delicious duck meat. The girl said that there was a carriage with no windows, and it looked like they were hiding the auction site. The guy said they had thought it through, but suddenly he saw the look in her eyes and asked her why she was looking at him like that. It had been a few days since they had met. Dan told him to drop the formalities. After all, he was 2 years older than her, and she looked away with a saddened look. She told him to forget it, and she would call him brother, and he would treat her like a little sister and no formalities. Dan said she was glad she got out of the house, and because of that, she met a master like him. The guy said that she was on the path of the 5 families. Representatives of the 5 great families visit the remaining 4 to gain experience, share knowledge, and strengthen the family alliance. And originally the guy said they were in the top 5 too, and now he doesn't even know how it got to that point. The girl started laughing because she sensed that he was going to get angry and needed to change the subject. She told him to look at her hand. I asked him if they were too ugly, right? They're like that from using knives and working with poisons, and it's logical that a child from their family will eventually learn martial arts. But at first she didn't give them to her and found them difficult. But her hands are a different story. Most men would be horrified to see them. Sometimes I wonder if she'll ever get married. But the guy said if you look at them from a different point of view, as the hands of a warrior, there are no hands in the world more beautiful. The girl did not expect such words from him and thanked him. But when she turned around, she blushed because she had told the man she knew nothing about everything she could. She asked the guy if they'd met before, because during the fight it seemed like he'd known her for a long time. Pengmu said it looked like they had arrived. Dan was pleased and said it was the auction she had only heard about before. The guy said that everything has been going smoothly so far, but everything important will start now, and if the future hasn't changed, McGee will show up tonight. Pengmu noticed the wound on her neck and said, Dan said she got this scar long ago when she was a family representative at a secret black market auction. And now the black market has become a source of income for McGee, but things were a little different back then. She thinks that was the first time McGee was attacked, and since then the black market has probably been under McGee's control. Don't worry about the scar, said Dan. The main thing is that she's still alive. And if no one will marry her because of her scar, will Pengmu take responsibility for her? Dan asked Guy why he wasn't answering, and what was he thinking so deeply about, and she let him put on the mask. If he's going to participate in a black market auction, he has to hide his face under a mask. Looking at the mask, Waryung said that he wouldn't let Dan get hurt this time. Looking at Pengmu, Dan asked why he was so excited. The guy said no, it's nothing like that. The guy in his head thought he didn't know the details of the attack. She just waved him off and wouldn't tell him the details, so he'd have to be on his guard. The head of the auction said, Dear guests who responded to the invitation of the black market, they are sincerely happy to welcome them. He is the person in charge of the secret black market auction, and his name is Kim Ren. All the auction items prepared by their market always surprise and satisfy the bidder's desires, but he is sure that this item will be to everyone's liking. Kim Ren took out an object from the box and said it was the first item in their secret auction. Pengmu said it was a Changbodo. The participants couldn't figure out what kind of card it was. Kumran said that most of them had already guessed what it was. This piece of leather depicts where the lost manuscripts of Changbodo's martial arts and weapons were hidden. To be precise, it's only a piece of Changbodo. But don't be disappointed because they don't know what this fragment points to. The warrior who single-handedly stopped the Helchin that tried to devour all of Gangnung 300 years ago. A legendary figure. The strongest god of war that ever existed. And this map points to the place where his weapons and remains are hidden. Hearing these words, people were surprised and everyone wanted to find this place. The bidders said that if the Mucheon, the successor to the god of war, found out about it, there would be chaos. They are obsessed with all things related to the god of war. Dan asked Pengmu if it's true, and the card isn't fake. The guy said since it was auctioned on the black market, there's a good chance it's real. But the guy knew that it was 100% real. After all, in the past, the weapon of the god of war was found only a short time after this piece of Changbodo was discovered. Since this is a map fragment, and their first item presented will start at 50 silver niang. Hearing this, people started to raise the bids to 80 niang. Hearing the people's stakes, Dan said that these people are really rich. 1 silver nan is a month's salary of a petty official. Dan said we can't waste money on this. After all, she has to buy the deadly poison that comes next. The last person offered 200 babysitters. Kyum Yong said he's going to start counting to 3. If no one offers more, the lot will be sold. Peng Mu decided to participate as well and offered 500 babysitters. Everyone was surprised by such an announcement from a stranger. But suddenly an angel showed up and said he was his own personal bank card. Why deny yourself something when you can't deny yourself anything? Dan took the guy by the shirt and asked him if he had a lot of money. It seems that Peng really does have a lot of money. Kyum Yong again said that he would count to 3. If there was no better offer, the item would be sold. But suddenly the man fainted. Kyum Yong didn't realize what had happened. Dan said the smoke wasn't from the smoker, and the air became so stifling. Dan shouted that it was poisonous fog when he saw people falling to the ground. Peng Mu thought he had everything under control, but then this guy came in and said they were having fun. And he asked me, aren't these receptions supposed to have guests, dancing and singing? But he only heard the screams of people begging to be spared. But he told them to dance and sing until their guts fell out of their gutted bellies. Peng Mu was annoyed that he couldn't see anything further than a couple of centimeters. Dan was beside her, but the guy told her to be careful, because there was someone here. Suddenly, out of nowhere, people started attacking. But Peng Mu spotted them and started attacking. The guy didn't notice that one of his attackers was behind him, but Dan came up and cut him down. She asked if Peng Mu was okay. The guy said she's the reason he survived. And these guys don't really look like people. Dan said they don't scream, even when fatally wounded. They attack mindlessly, like they've been brainwashed. The guy said it's a fake demon squad. Killer puppets created by mage to fight. It is said that they gather orphans from Zhongyuan, destroy their will, and then teach them martial arts. They feel no pain and will not stop fighting until they die. The guy said it was all McGee's doing. Not to jump to conclusions, but he's probably right. But who would have thought, said the guy, that they would send a fake demon squad? And now the guy can see why he didn't sense their presence. The guy told Warren that if this continues, everyone will be dead. And we should gather people at the grandstand. There's less poisonous fog. Dan said she understood. After all, people who don't know martial arts won't last 30 minutes. So she asked the guy if he'd go with her. Peng Mu said he'd find the killer. Since the puppets are here, there must be a puppeteer nearby. The girl said okay, but she also gave him something. The guy was surprised, but the girl told him he knew what it was. Kyum Yun was thinking about how many pieces to cut the enemies into so that they would calm down. After all, they were human beings too, after all. He didn't understand how it happened, or who dared to attack the black market. But suddenly someone took him from behind, and it was Dan who saved his life. Kyum Yong asked who she was. Dan said she was the daughter of the Dan family from Sichuan, Dan Warren. They don't have time to talk about it now, she said, and told him to help gather the non-martial arts guests in the grandstand. That's where there's the least amount of poisonous fog. So she gave the job to Kyum Yong and told him to try to save everyone. Dan was angry and called them Bastard McGee and asked how dare they use poison where there were Dan family slains? Because they will regret it. Peng Mu felt that the fog was getting thicker. Even if he creates a vortex with techniques, he doesn't think that the fog will dissipate. But suddenly he heard someone telling all the black market warriors and surviving guests to gather at the podium. Peng Mu said it's fine because the fake demon squad is also going up there. They will only need to protect this place. But suddenly someone took Peng Mu by the leg and asked him to help him. The guy asked if he was okay, but he saw that the symptoms of poisoning had already appeared. The guy told him to calm down and took his hand. As he lifted the man up, he noticed some chains around him. Poisonous metal chains and disgusting demonic energy. The stranger said he didn't know him and asked how he knew about him. The guy took off his mask and said, "How can you not know someone you've fought with so many times that he's already in your liver?" Taking off his mask, the guy said he hadn't seen you in a while. Poisonous demon seed. McGee's dirty henchman. Mage said it's strange. It's been decades since the main school disappeared from the Murim, and told the boy to be honest. How did he know that McGee was related to the poisonous demon seed? Peng Mu told him to defeat him, and then he will know how much he knows. And if he wants to take it all away, let him fight properly. McGee asked the guy if his missing limbs would keep him from talking, right? Stabbed him and told him not to die. Kyum Yong fought like a true warrior and guarded the stands so that they wouldn't come near ordinary people. Dan asked how he's doing here. Kyum Yong said he was doing his best to defend himself. Kyum Yong looked at Dan and said that she was still young, but she was very talented, which was expected from a blood child of the Dan family. Seeing the energy around them, Dan said that it looked like his comrade had found the assassin. It seems that the enemy is not that simple. Judging from his energy, he is almost at the level of a transcendent master. Dan said that his brother Peng is strong, and it seems that he has almost reached the level of a transcendent master. She told Kyum Yong to quickly deal with the enemies and help Peng Mu. Kyum Moon asked Dan if she was too relaxed, and how long would they last in this horrible poisonous fog. Dan told him that he seems to have forgotten who she is. The Dan family from Sichuan won't let their comrades suffer from some poison. The fight between McGee and Peng Mu was not a fight to the death, where both were not ready to give in to each other and avenge the past. McGee got an elbow on his jaw and said that the guy's martial arts is a separate topic of conversation, but he can see that the poison mist has no effect on him at all. Why, he asked. Peng Mu said that Mage is quite curious. Being like that, it's strange that he didn't even find out who would participate in the auction today. When it comes to poisons, there's a family the McGee boys can't even try to compete with. When Dan gave Peng Mu the pill, she said she made it herself. One pill will neutralize the effect of all poisonous mists, and he will definitely win. McGee said that Peng Mu just drank the antidote, but that didn't change anything. McGee said there's a limit to what this medicine can do. I wonder how long it will last. Peng Mu felt that the fog was getting thicker and the poison was getting stronger. If it continues like this, it could be dangerous. His current immunity to such tricks lies not only in Hua Ren's antidote, but also in the 100 poison potion given to him by his maternal grandfather, the king of assassins. Di Wangdan was also involved, and although there had been no problems so far, Peng Mu was beginning to feel the side effects. McGee asked how the boy felt, as if he had been completely swallowed up by the fog. After all, he has already experienced 3 strong poisons of their organization, and it's amazing that he's still standing. But how long will he last? Peng Mu realized that he had no way out, even though it was a little dangerous, but he had no choice but to take the risk. When he looked at the boy, he started laughing, because he couldn't move and he was desperate. But he should ask him first how he found out about him. He can't be killed right away. You can take one of his arms away from him first. With a blow, the guy disappeared and miraculously ended up next to him with his eyes closed. That's how it turns out, said McGee. Decided to give up sight and fight, relying only on the sensation of energy. His skillful control of chi energy was amazing, said Mage. But to go for such a thing when you could lose your head at any moment. Mage wondered how he had gone so long without his sight. But what would he do with his body, weighed down by the poison? Asked McGee. Would he wait for death to catch up with him? Peng Mu waited for his moment and realized that he was almost done, and it was time to slowly finish what he had started. Peng Mu said that the sword of iron teeth of the fierce tiger is a martial technique belonging to his past self, the great swordsman Peng Ji Hyok. Even though he's not a direct descendant of the Peng family, he can't study the higher martial arts, so he only developed his skills and had to fight back against death time and time again, using only his sword skills. The urge to protect the Peng family drove him to the grave. Whether it was because of that, he doesn't know himself. He could die at any moment, and no one would be surprised if he did. His sword technique was developed under extreme conditions. As time went on, it became tougher and more fierce. He didn't avoid or block the attack. He just slashed, pierced, and slashed again. And there is one phenomenon: the closer a person is to death, the more desire to avoid it. And the second breath opens up and internal reserves are released. This is the essence of his technique, the sword of the iron teeth of the fierce tiger. McGee noticed and said that the guy's aura had changed. But he also noticed that Peng Mu had gotten even faster. But that didn't stop him from hurting the guy. He said that he was going to let him live, but now he was finished. But Peng Mu didn't stop going and stump him and leave him in an awkward position. McGee even began to fear him. After conducting several large and complex attacks, the 5 claws of the fierce tiger gave out, and sitting down on his knees, he sighed. Mage survived and started laughing. He said that the boy's actions were very difficult to predict. Who would have thought that the young master would appear in a wu-wei state? McGee said it's getting more and more interesting to find out who he really is. But unfortunately, McGee won't last long in this state. Peng Mu said that the poisonous demon seed fought quite well. If anything went wrong, the guy said that he would pass out first. He said that his name was Peng Mu Song, the fourth heir of the Peng family. McGee said that he revealed his identity and it is the moral of a Kiampa warrior or bullying the weak. The guy told him, let's call it respect for the master. But these words did not like the magician and told the guy to remember that he is the poisonous demonic seed of Hosa Yin. Their organization will exterminate the Peng family one by one, and let them believe it won't take long. And let him prepare to die, said McGee, telling the guy that he would die right there with him. McGee attacked him, but Peng Mu dodged the blow. Peng Mu said that he seemed to have said this before. He was well aware of all his techniques, so much so that he was already bored with them. As expected, Peng Mu said that the Mage wars are strong. And today, the guy was saved not only by the antidote but also by Daewangdan. Otherwise, his ending would have been sad again. But suddenly Dan came running in to ask if Brother Pan was okay. The guy said he was fine, but Dan said he was fine because his complexion and appearance said otherwise. Dan said he's bleeding heavily and showing signs of poisoning. Tell him to wait a second and she'll give him the cut medicine and antidote. And if he's so careless with his body, Dan said, he'll grow old and suffer. But suddenly he didn't expect that Mage's puppets were still alive, and one was trying to attack from behind. And he remembered the memory when he asked about the wound. Remembering her words, she said that if no one would take her as a wife because of her scars, Peng Mu was responsible. But this time he wouldn't let anyone hurt her. And pulling her to the side, he drew his sword and plunged it into Mage's puppet. Worried about Dan, he asked if she was all right, if she had hurt herself. Dan said she was fine and thanked Peng Mu. Kim Yong said he was in charge of the black market auction, and he wanted to formally express his sincere thanks to young Lady Dan and young Master Peng. And if it weren't for them, their market would be in dire straits, facing an unprecedented situation. Kim Yong said that they decided to compensate the honored guests who almost got hurt. However, he wants to repay them with something else and asked how they feel about it. Kim Yong said that he would like to offer Lady Dan the strongest poison of the southern barbarians that was auctioned off today. Dan said that she would be happy about it. And Mr. Peng told Kim Yong that he would like to give the Changbolo map piece he had previously purchased for free. The guy said they would be very grateful to receive it. Kim Yong asked who dared to attack the black market. The guy said that it was the mage who was thought to be long gone. He told Kim Yong to report it to the black market owner. Kim Yong said that when he came to him, he would report it first. Dan went home and said what a crazy day it's been, and the appearance of McGee. She can't believe that the evil from her grandfather's time has returned. If it's not too much trouble, she could write a letter to her family, since they need to inform the world of Mage's return. Dan said of course and asked Peng Mu where he was going to go now. Peng Mu said that he should hurry and return home to prepare for the battle with McGee. A saddened Dan said she understood. So this is where their paths diverge. But the kind and loving Peng Mu asked her if she wanted to go with him. A surprised Dan asked what Peng Mu had just said. He said that in the upcoming battle with Mage, they would definitely need a talented young master like her. The guy asked if he could count on the Tang family from Sichuan to help him. It's a shame, but his Peng family's word carries little weight. And if she tells everyone about it, the other families will definitely come to them. Dan tells the guy not to be flattered because he's so appreciative of her skills and her family. But she's disappointed and refuses. When Warren was angry with him in the past, she just glared at him for a week. The guy thought it was strange because from the point of view of logic there was no flaw. Perhaps the power of persuasion was not enough. In such cases, you don't know why Warren is angry. The inner voices told him not to use his head, but rather just be honest. The guy told her what he just said was true, but the main reason is that he wants them to be together in the future. That's how Dan said it, but the last sentence is quite touching. And she agreed to go with Peng Mu. After arriving at the Shaolin clan, Peng Mu said hello to the monk. He apologized for the distraction, but they had come to meet the head monk of the Shaolin temple. The head monk of the Shaolin temple is Hen Jin. But suddenly his disciple ran in and said something was going on outside. The monk asked Mu Yung what happened. Mu Yung said that a man with the will of the late monk Hungayan had appeared. Mu Zhang said that a young master from the Peng family had just arrived at Shaolin with a manuscript written by a monk, and he has requested an audience with you. Will you accept him? Asked Mu Zhang. That's what the head monk said. And Mu Zhang ordered Mu Zhang to bring Peng Mu to him. After reading the manuscript, the chief monk realized how things were, and he missed Shaolin until his death, and said that Mr. Peng had done a great deed and thanked him for it. And then asked Di Wangdang who was with the monk had taken the boy. The boy confirmed the monk's words. The head monk was happy that this was the case, and he was very happy that their Shaolin temple was able to help Kanko's new property. The head monk saw at first sight that the boy is a born warrior and a straightforward person, and he is eager to find out what the future holds for him. The appearance of this child in Shaolin was probably the great will of the Buddha himself. Would it be right to send him back like this? Thought the head monk. The monk said that it would probably be unexpected for Mr. Pan, but would he like to stay here for a while? As the leader of the Shaolin, he can't just pass by such a valuable martial artist. And they would like to know more about how he encountered Mage. And if Peng Mu doesn't mind, the monk would like to help him with his training. What do you think? The monk asked. It was a great opportunity for the boy to learn the martial arts of Shaolin, the temple with the longest history in Murima. As far as he remembered, Mage would be quiet for a while, and he should take this opportunity to improve his fighting skills and raise his level. Peng Mu told the monk that he had originally intended to return to his native land to train, but he could not miss the opportunity to study the Shaolin arts. Mana said thank you for saying such kind words, and to be honest, he wanted to ask Peng Mu for something. He said there was a child just like him, and he would be the owner of this manuscript. He has profound martial arts skills at a young age, and the Shaolin has high hopes for him. But he is a daredevil who knows no heavenly limits. The monk asked if Peng Mu could tame this little brat. Dan couldn't find Peng Mu, but the guy found her faster. He apologized for the delay, and asked her how long she waited. Dan ran to meet him and said no, because she hadn't noticed how much time had passed while she was looking around the temple, and she asked the boy if he'd talked. The boy smiled and said that he had something to say to Warun. The girl surprisingly asked. Peng Mu said that he had decided to stay at Shaolin Temple for a while to train, and asked Warun if she was okay with it. Dan was pleased and said they could expand their knowledge, and she agreed. She was already so excited about it. Peng Mu thought about it and was glad that Warun was obsessed with martial arts. But the guy told her that she had to meet someone before that. The monk asked the guy if he was going to meet this guy right now. The guy said yes, and asked what was the problem. The monk took a deep breath and said that they would have to face each other anyway and solve the problem. The monk told the guy he should probably apologize in advance. But in a word, the guy's a psycho. The guy thought about it and realized that people's opinion of this guy is the same as it was in his previous life. Peng Mu told monk not to worry. After all, he is already used to this type of person. And among his old friends, there are such personalities too. I mean, the guy didn't think they'd meet like this, and said they'd go to see an old friend, while this guy was sleeping in the cave, and suddenly woke up abruptly and stood up asking Peng Mu. Peng Mu apologized for interrupting the boy's training, and asked if he was the promising Shaolin disciple Mu Gak. Peng Mu realized that he knew him well because he was his friend from the past. Mu Gak told him to answer the question. The heir said that he was a little late in greeting, and said that he was Peng Mu Song of the Peng family. The girl next to him is Mrs. Dan of the Dan family from Sichuan. Peng Mu said the head monk asked him to make sure to meet him, a talented Shaolin martial artist. But my friend monk called Mu Gak an asshole and asked if he was going to introduce himself. Mu Gang said he had forgotten and thanked the elder for reminding him, and he attacked Peng Mu with all his strength and anger. Peng Mu used several meaningless attacks that Peng Mu easily defended himself against. The monk asked him what he was doing, but he was told by Mu Gak not to interfere. Mu Gak said he was going to teach the guests to be polite, and analyzing Peng Mu, he said his eyes weren't wrong. And this guy is strong. Dan said she didn't understand and asked who else he wanted to teach politeness to. They peeked at someone else's practice and interrupted him. And besides, Peng Mu had a cheeky look. But Mu Gak's anger grew and he used the highest spiritual technique of Shaolin, the power of wisdom. Peng Mu watched this and said that this child was worthless, and he didn't think that Mu Gak was such a brute from his early years. Peng Mu knew that in order for him to become friends, Mugak would have to show him all his skills. Using the rarest and strongest attack against Peng Mu, Mugak told him that he really liked him as an opponent. When Dan saw it, she said that it was the 72nd skill of the Shaolin martial arts school, the highest wisdom power. And she was very happy to follow Peng Mu. And she wondered who would win if the Dan family's secret weapon and the Shaolin Temple's martial arts clashed. Peng Mu didn't like Mugak's actions and wondered who he was trying to kill. Mugak said him, "Are they just going to run around with him all night?" Peng Mu said that would not be the case. After all, for the great power of wisdom to master this Shaolin martial art, one must also excel in Dharma. There are only two people who have mastered this martial art. One is the teacher of teenage Murim, Buddha. The other is Mugak. Watching the fight, Dan said that the lone spirit of thunder and the great power of wisdom clashed. And here she is trying to bring out the best in them. The monk couldn't believe his eyes that Mugak is a child who is always full of resentment and anger. And he couldn't believe that he could see him so happy. Dan said that Peng Mu looks like that too. But he's excited like a child who met a friend after a long time. They're behaving so much that she can't even intervene. Mugak, after losing his parents to the Sape warriors, he met his Buddha teacher and became part of the Shaolin Temple. Anger and sadness at the unjust death of his family, he studied Buddhist sutras, mastered martial arts, and got rid of his enemies. But the stronger he got, the deeper the loneliness got. Because he didn't want to deal with weak and lazy bastards. Because he needed an opponent who could fight him on equal footing. And he finally met him, a man who can answer everything he's accumulated, risking the life of a worthy opponent. After seeing Mugak's pose, the monk said that it was the 72nd skill of the Shaolin martial arts school, and 18 palm strikes. But Peng Mu didn't hesitate and used the sword of iron teeth of the fierce tiger, and the big tiger's blow shook the tree. Mugak started laughing and said just as he thought, his eyes weren't wrong. And that's the guy he likes more and more. Dan asked Monk, isn't this cheating? After all, he had already used 72 martial arts skills so many times already. It's hard to master even one of them. The monk said that's why they call him a monster. Mugak told the guy to try to counter the attack of the divine Arhat's fist. But he was surprised to see that the guy jumped straight to the center and wasn't even injured. Using a retaliatory attack, Mugak got a good beating. And angry, he told Peng Mu not to mess with him, but suddenly he used the next attack of 72 martial arts skills. But everyone was surprised, and the guy told him that he seemed to have misjudged the target. But when he saw it, he was surprised, for he had attacked Amitabha's statue, and he knew that the teacher would kill him. While meditating, Peng Mu heard Mugak's voice. He said what they did here. They just took a few blows and stretched out flat. He asked them if they were going to get up. Mugak said his brothers were lying when they cried and clung to him, saying they wanted to be stronger. He told them to get up quickly, because everything was just beginning. Peng Mu said that Mugak, the rascal, had been in a good mood since morning. The teacher laughed and said that it was all thanks to Mr. Peng. And ever since Peng Mu arrived, the smile hasn't left Mugak's face. Peng Mu stood up and greeted monk Mu Jin. Mu Yung asked how the training was going. Peng Mu said that the head monk had given them permission to study the martial arts of monk Hong Yong. Mu Jan decided to strike unexpectedly and said that it was a powerful punch and Peng Mu blocked it so easily. Mu Yung told the guy that his muscles and the skin of his whole body had become harder like a wild beast, and what he had just shown was a martial art that was in the manuscript of monk Hong Yong, and it's called Iron Tiger Skin. Peng Mu said that the head monk said he wanted the guy to name the technique. So he named it out of necessity, and the boy is grateful to him for letting him learn the technique. Mu Yung said that the head monk made the right decision, and even that's not enough to repay him for his kindness. After all, he brought the will of the late monk Hungayan. Mrs. Dan entered the battlefield and said she found Mugak, and said that she would win today. Mugak asked if she would admit defeat. After all, in the past few months, he has 12 victories and she has 8 defeats. He's obviously superior to her. Dan said today's gonna be different. She's gonna put stabilizer on those overinflated muscles. Mugak asked, does she think she can pierce his iron skin with such a puny weapon? But Mugak asked her to wait. He told her to stop, because her weapons were laced with poison. As Dan ran away, she said that Mugak, a rascal like Mr. Peng, had studied the tiger's iron skin and was so excited. Mu Yung said as he looked at the child who was already strong had risen to an even higher level. It was all thanks to Lady Dan and Lord Peng. Peng Mu said he should thank Mu Yung. He and Waren are getting stronger because of training with the Shaolin disciples. And it's true what Peng Mu said. Waren's skills with secret weapons have become more accurate as she comes into contact with the martial arts of the monks. And Mu Gak's speed of mastering the Iron Tiger skin is also amazing. He can definitely reach a higher level faster than in his previous life. And that goes for him as well. 3 months since he arrived at the Shaolin. Now it's time for him to show himself in a different condition. When he arrived at the main building of Shaolin Temple, the head monk smelled the energy and said that he hoped that the will of the late monk Hong Yen had helped Mr. Peng Mu. Meditating, Peng Mu said that he was able to defeat the poisonous demon seed. And the battles with the masters that happened during all that time training in Shaolin, he was even able to master the Iron Tiger skin. And now all the pieces are in place and he's overcome the wall. And when you reach this level, an illusion like 3 flower buds appears above your head. That's why it's often called 3 flowers on top in Kanho. It's probably too soon for Peng Mu to say, but he doesn't have much time. If not now, then never. Coming to his senses, Peng Mu felt a calmness in his soul. But he wondered if he had felt so peaceful before. But suddenly Dan came in and said that his brother had beaten him to it. He asked Mu Gak and Waren how long they had been here. Mu Gak gave him the bottle and said that it was the wine he had been saving for a long time. The smile on Peng Mu's face brightened even more when he saw the alcohol. Mu Gak suggested that they get drunk as hell tonight, and congratulated Peng Mu on the level of 3 flowers at the top. But suddenly Mu Gak shouted and asked who did it? Taking the elder by the collar, he asked who did it? The elder didn't understand and asked what? Peng Mu was watching the scene and asked Dan what was wrong with him. Dan said he received a message from his teacher, Bulazhong. The message said that he had committed a crime and that he should come to a place of silence. Peng Mu asked, is the place of silence the cave where Bodhidharma practiced continuous contemplation of the stone wall in sitting meditation? Dan laughed and said right, and in other words, it's forced training as punishment. Mu Gak couldn't understand how the person who was now in the closed training session knew that he had smashed the Buddha statue and drank rice wine. Someone had definitely reported him to him, Mu Gak said. Peng Mu laughed and said it was a blessing from the Buddha himself. Dan asked the boy if he had also received a letter from home. The guy said yes, and the deputy head of the family allowed him to participate in the celebration of 100 families. And it is necessary to spread the word about the active secret activities of Mage Tam, and where all the families of Murim will gather. Dan laughed and said fine because she'd been told the same thing. So they'll go to Jinju together. The monk said the boys were finished with their training. It was a pity that they were leaving them, because the students had learned a lot from them. Peng Mu said he should thank them and he owed them a great debt. Dan said he would come back to eat the food here. The head said he's proud that they grew up in Shaolin, and he hopes they will use this power to save people. The monk took him by the shoulders and said that his shoulders looked heavy. He doesn't know the whole situation, but if Peng Mu tries to bear it all by himself, he might get sick, so take care of yourself. After bowing to Peng Mu, he told the head monk that he would remember. But suddenly Mu Gak shouted for them to stop. Wiping the tears from his eyes, he asked how he would live now. He would be so bored when they were gone, and all his brothers were so weak. Dan said they'd be back, so he'd better hide the wine well. Mu Gak said he wouldn't get caught next time. Patting him on the back, Peng Mu told him to practice hard. Mu Gak said that he was behind in the number of battles he had won, but next time he would let Peng Mu taste more fearsome blows. Coming to Hebei Jinju, Dan was so happy, saying it was so delicious. The guy next to her was very surprised. Peng Mu asked her if this was her first time tasting tanguli. It must be hard to taste it in Sichuan. After the 100 families were done celebrating, Dan said they could go out for a quick meal. After entering the On family's territory from Jinju, Dan said that it was strange. Peng Mu asked why. Dan said they'd spent a few months together and now they had to break up. Peng Mu said really, as soon as he meets someone from his family, I will immediately explain the whole situation about McGee, and said that Dan should also bring it to his family. After saying goodbye, a man came up to Peng Mu and asked him if he was from the Peng family in Hebei. He said he'd take him to the house where the Peng family's guests are served. and told him to give him his things. Peng Mu said with a stare that the place was quite big. It looks like they have accumulated a lot of taxes in the past, and it's going to be difficult because in the past life, the An family and Peng De Hak's maternal relatives betrayed the Champa alliance and even attacked the Peng family. But when the people arrived at the place, they were surprised by the arrival of the fourth gentleman, and all the people greeted him in a friendly manner. Peng Mu said they hadn't seen each other for a long time and asked if everything was okay at home. The guy said that he was the reason why there was a lot of noise. The boys asked him to tell about the tiger's spiritual journey, and he also defeated the Jokryong clan, which is also a refreshing story. Some stranger said that Peng Mu had been in Shaolin for quite a long time, and he wondered what had suddenly caused such a stir. But it turned out to be their junior had arrived. By the look on Peng Mu's face, he was not happy to see Peng De Hyok, but he greeted the first heir. Peng De said it shouldn't be so formal, they're brothers. He hugged him and said that it had been a long time since the two of them had had a heart-to-heart talk. But Junior doesn't seem to like it, and if he wants to keep his life, he should listen to his big brother, said Peng De. Peng Mu told the guys that he was sorry and they would continue the conversation later. As he followed the first heir, he realized that Peng De had become bolder and that he was interested. Peng De said he must have had a hard time and offered to eat as much as he wanted. But he thought his spiritual journey as a tiger was a bit extreme. But Peng Mu kept messing things up with Sudokian, and he's afraid it will affect their family. And the conflict with the heavenly demon Luda is problematic, and asked isn't the Marin clan in Hebei now? And it's not yet time for their family to target Kanko. Let Peng Mu refrain from confronting them for now. But suddenly Peng Mu laughed and Peng De didn't like it and asked what was so funny? Peng Mu apologized for his impertinence and said that he couldn't do otherwise. Kiampa attaches joint conditions, and he says to worry about Sape's opinion. After all, his Peng family is not afraid of any opponent, whether it's Sudokian or the An family from Jinju. Peng De got angry and asked him what he said. I guess he said that Peng Mu had too much to drink. After all, his family is friends of their families and his maternal relatives. Peng Mu then asked why they were looking at their friend's sphere of influence over the Peng family. Everyone knows that when the main family that ruled Hebei for many years was broken, the He family slowly began to absorb their territory. And is it true, asked Peng Mu, that even the members of the main family change from those who come from Jinju? Peng De said where he heard such nonsense. Peng Mu said that sometimes he even gets confused. He's a Peng family man or a He family man. Peng Du asked how Peng Mu, how dare he slander him, or does he want the position of the head of the family? Peng Mu turned around and said, if the first heir is finished, he will go. Peng De said when it comes to this bastard, it becomes difficult for him to control his emotions. And why is there no chance against him, as they say? Peng De wanted to win his brother over to his side, but it seems to have failed. He's halfway to becoming a transcendent master. However, he is stronger than him, but weaker than the future head of the He family, the Dragon Fist. He said that during the 100 Families celebration, there will be a small martial arts competition, and we should ask the head of the family to smash the little one to smithereens. Sitting on the stairs, Peng Mu thought and said that he was right to hide his level of martial arts skills. The Dragon Fist had set the table for him, so all he had to do was eat. Peng Mu decided to give the Iron Tiger Skin technique to the deputy head. When he took it in his hands, the deputy was very surprised. Peng Mu said that the secret manuscript of the 1,000-year-old Buddha from Shaolin, and asked him to give it to the head of the military. It will be a good help to the warriors. Let all members of the Peng family, regardless of their affiliation to the direct or martial lineage, see it. And Peng Mu said that he would like the deputy to put the manuscript on the first floor of the family library. The deputy head thought and saw that the fourth heir wanted to raise the Peng family's skill level. And the junior's feeling is so deep. He told the boy that he understood his wish and praised him. Peng Mu told the uncle that he was exaggerating. Uncle said that he looked at his report in the letter he sent in advance. He asked that there was a collision with McGee. Peng Mu said that there wasn't enough evidence, but he felt the demonic energy that was characteristic of Mage. And the poison demon seed demon leading the group recognized it. The uncle said it's been too long since they disappeared from the Murim, and he's worried if the other families will believe him. Peng Mu said that the magicians will start acting again. Even if they don't want to believe it, they're not going anywhere. When Peng Mu came to the city center, he saw people celebrating happily. But that brother didn't show up today. But he should have arrived by now. But suddenly some guy asked, "Is he Mr. Peng Mu Song?" Peng Mu said yes and asked what's wrong. The guy said his name was Suk Jang Ho, and he was from a family of Suk sword warriors. And he's heard a lot about the glory of the perfect tiger blade. Some guys came over and started introducing themselves to him. They said that he didn't realize how big his fame was among the young Chongpa masters. But a girl tried to pass through the crowd. When Peng Mu saw her, he asked Warren. The beautiful girl said that she had found him. All the guys started shouting perfect tiger blade and young mistress are so close. And it is said that they stayed in Shaolin for a few months and trained together. Dan said that she thought Peng Mu would stay inside the four walls, but he's participating in the celebration. The guy said she was wrong, and it would be better if he just slept. Dan said his popularity is impressive and asked how he feels about it. Peng Mu said it's nice to be recognized for merit, but he's a little confused and it's a little burdensome. Warren said he'd have to get used to it. After all, he'll get even more attention in tomorrow's competition. As he was resting, he stood up abruptly and said that someone was calling him. When he went outside, he followed his senses. When the stranger arrived, he said that he was looking forward to one child. Peng Mu said, but another one came. Looking at the stranger, he thought he had come here just in case. Just as Peng Mu thought it was him, and said that Peng Mu Song welcomed the elder. And this stranger was the head of the On family of Jinju and the 10th master of the Murim, the king of the On Jie who fist Jinju's evil nature underneath the shell. The power remained in his hands even after he stepped down as the head of the family. He laughed and said that he had heard a lot about him from his grandson Dehek. Peng Mu felt that his entire body began to tingle. This was the internal energy of someone who had attained transcendence. The clan head, he said he could sense the guy's energy very well. And he had studied a wave that ordinary masters wouldn't be able to detect. The guy said the head was exaggerating. The head asked the guy, but he knew the head was calling for someone else? Then why did he come here? The guy said that he was just curious about who had received the invitation from the Fist King. The head thought about his words and said that the guy's skills were far beyond what people knew, better than he had in the past. Dehak is lucky to have such a talented brother. And taking him by the shoulder, he used some kind of force that made him squirm. The guy apologized and said that he was not going to help his older brother. The guy apologized and said that he was not going to help his older brother. The guy said he can't lose. And that person is using Peng Dehak to take over the Peng family. You can't show weakness. The head was surprised that the guy was able to disable his attack. But he's just a young master. It's like he's looking at the brightness achieved by thousands of times of tempering. The head said that such an innate ability was a pity to give to the Peng family. It would be better if the child was of his blood. And the head can't leave a reason to worry. A stranger came in and said that he was a little late because of his slow pace. He didn't think the atmosphere would be so hot. It was the heir of the Namgung family, and he's greeting the Fist King. When Peng Mu saw him, he knew for sure that he was the unrivaled swordsman Namgung Hek. He's a genius who would later be named the best, and the eldest of their 4 sappas. Namgung Hek said that he thought the elders of all the families had gone to celebrate the sunrise. And he sees that the head of the He family didn't join. The head of the family laughed and said that he didn't like places where there were many people. Peng Mu said that he was joking a little, but suddenly this child appeared and greeted him. The head said he couldn't recklessly use his skills on the heir of the Namnug family. The boy was very lucky. The head said he would go first because the morning exercise was too hard. Namgung Hek told the head to be careful. Namgung asked the guy if he was okay. Peng Mu said he was fine. Watching Peng Mu, Namgung wondered if the young master, who was not inferior in energy power to the Fist King, was the same as him. He abruptly handed him the bottle and asked Peng Mu if he wanted to have a drink with him. The boy was very surprised at the offer. Namgung said that this monk Mu Gak was so funny. He could pass for crazy. He would like to meet him someday. The boy said he thought it would be soon. Namgung said it was very exciting for him to hear stories about his spiritual journey as a tiger in person. The boy thanked him and said that the lotus leaf wine he had received from the elder was delicious. But suddenly Guy called him senior, and Namgung told him not to be so, and let him just call him brother. Namgung said he would be 30 this year, and he is not at the age to be called a young master, but he wants to build a closer relationship with him, so can he call the guy younger brother, Namgung asked. Peng Mu told him that he could call him brother. Namgung said that people who like to talk say that he will become the best swordsman in the future, even the best in the world. When he saw Peng Mu fighting the King of Fist, he realized that in the future, he might be a talented swordsman, but he would not be the best in the world. Peng Mu said that no one knows what the future holds for them. Namgung told the boy not to be modest and asked if he would participate in the upcoming event. The guy picking up the glass of wine asked him, "Is he talking about the martial arts competition?" Dan asked Peng Mu in a whisper if he had heard the prize for winning. But the boy said he hadn't heard. Dan heard that the winner of the competition will receive a 20-year-old son who has absorbed chi energy. Dan asked the guy if he was going to participate. After all, it's a great opportunity to improve his internal energy. Peng Mu told Warren to calm down. Peng Mu's gaze went to the person who walked in. It was the future head of the own family, Dragon Fist on Dae Jayun. "Look at that kid," Dae Jayun said. "Dae Hak asked me to take care of. Let's see what he can do." Watching the fight, Peng Mu said that the guy's skills were pretty good, and the guy with the spear would win. Dan said she remembered that they were the young masters who pretended to know Peng Mu yesterday. Peng Mu asked Warren that she said that everyone can participate in this competition. Warren said that anyone can enter. The loser leaves and the winner waits for the next contestant. The battles continue until there are no more contestants left. The guys were yelling that they believe in Sang Subek. But Warren made up her mind and said she would go next. Peng Mu said he thought she would go next. The next opponent told the guy that he had made the right decision. It seems that he had already spent a lot of chi energy. Let him rest and drink something. This man Wangbo Sae-un is from the Wangbo family. It's one of the 5 great families. And he shouted to the Fist Dragon and asked, "Isn't he bored just watching this?" and told him to go up to the platform. Warren wasn't happy and said that this Wanbo stole her opponent. No one would be able to stop the two of them from fighting. Peng Mu was surprised and asked what she was talking about. Warren said that among the young masters of Inuanchij, those with outstanding abilities are given the nicknames Dragon and Phoenix. And now there are 5 dragons in Chongpa, and among them, the Dragon of the Fist is called the heir and future head of the family. And now she's beginning to realize, Warren said, that for generations this nickname has belonged to the Wangbo family. But recently, the Fist Dragons have been called the On family of Jinju. And maybe this competition is organized for their duel. Dragon Fist said, even if he gets the prize prepared by the He family, it will be strange. And said Wanbo, even if he wins, he will give the prize to him. Wanbo said that he would gladly accept his gift and Sosandan and of course his nickname. The guys were surprised that he took down Wanbo with one punch. And he's from a great family. Who would have thought there would be such a big difference between them? The Dragon Fist said that it was too boring to leave the battleground like this. And he would like to see the perfect tiger blade skills that are talked about so much. He motioned for young Master Peng to come up. Peng Mu said he expected this from Peng Dae Hak too. If he's so eager, let's try it once. Everyone was happy about this confrontation between the Dragon Fist and the perfect tiger blade. And Warren saw that her brother looked happy. She was even jealous. Peng Mu tossed his sword to Warren to hold. Peng Dae asked him what he was doing. The guy said it was nothing special. He was going to defeat the opponent using only fist fighting techniques. Peng Dae said that Dae Hak's younger brother is as dear to him as his brother. So he'll pretend he didn't hear that and bring his sword back. Peng Mu said he didn't know or remember having such a brother. Peng Da laughed and said since words don't work on him, he's going to help him realize the harsh reality and show him what it means to be one of the 5 dragons. Peng Da realized that he had hit the target, but suddenly he felt empty. Peng Mu told him that his fist was too slow. After throwing a few punches, Peng Da couldn't believe that the guy was not only fast, but also so hard that his fists were burning. And he didn't realize what kind of technique the guy had mastered. Warren knew in his head that this was the level of his brother's iron skin tiger technique, which was already quite high. And it wouldn't be possible to strike him easily. After all, her brother learned fist fighting and ball skills from a Shaolin master. And together with the genius Mu Gak. Peng Mu got angry and said that Peng Da only smokes his head, and his skills are worthless. And he's very disappointed, the Dragon of the Fist. After he threw a punch, the guy turned around and told him he could leave the set. And he'd wait for another contestant. Peng Dae didn't like these words and attacked the guy. but Namgung stepped in and told him to stop Fist Dragon and said if he can't accept the result and strike a fatal blow in official competitions. He is of the 5 dragons, and he should be very ashamed. Namgung said that the perfect tiger blade won this fight. Sitting at the table, Namgung raised his glass and said that he congratulated him on winning the perfect tiger blade competition. Namgung told the boy that he was a little embarrassed to be part of the feast for the first time in a long time, but he couldn't help pouring wine for him on a day like this. Warren told Namgung, however, he should have told her that he likes to drink. Namgung said that in 6 years, she had become a real woman, Warren. The girl was surprised and asked when she was a runt. Namgung told Brother Pan that when Warren was a child, she used to play war games, and while he was napping during the day, she used her secret weapon on him. Peng Mu told Namgung that he was the reason he survived. He was the one who stopped the Dragon Fist, because the case was about to take a serious turn. Namgung said that Peng Mu showed his weakness on purpose to see how he would behave. Peng Mu laughed and realized that he had noticed it. Wanbo told Mr. Peng that his fight had left a lasting impression, and raised his glass to congratulate him on his victory. Wanbo asked Peng Mu if he remembered the martial arts he used in the competition, and if he could, he would like some advice. Peng Mu said that he had a lot of strength, so it would be better for him to pay a little more attention to carefully unveiling the fist-fighting technique. Sitting at the table, Warren said that Dragon Fist hasn't been seen since the end of the fight. Wanbo said that he must be ashamed and didn't come. One of the guys said that Wanbo is right. After all, one of Qianpa's 5 dragons is so embarrassed at an official fight. He has something to be ashamed of, because he saw that Peng De was nowhere to be seen. They must have reassembled somewhere and are coming up with a new cunning plan. While Peng De scolded the guy and asked how this could have happened, he said that Peng Mu was halfway to becoming a transcendent master. The warrior bowed his head and said he had no excuse. Peng De couldn't understand how Mu Sung defeated De, Jiayun's brother. Even with fist-fighting techniques, his younger brother, who didn't know how to use martial arts, and whom he didn't pay attention to, but not even a year later, he is already a danger to him. Peng De said that we should find another solution by all means. If something goes wrong, that little brat could become the head of the family. The deputy head asked Mu Song if he was ready. With a twinkle in his eyes, he said. The stranger opened the door to the room and said that the protagonist had finally arrived. It was the head of the Namgung Jin family. He told the deputy head of the Peng family and the perfect tiger blade to come over. Sitting at the official Becca group meeting, Peng Mu said that all those gathered here are the heads of the strongest families representing the Murim. He needs to gather his thoughts. He must show them that the Magi have secretly started to act. Someone told the guy that it was a pleasure to meet the perfect tiger blade, and introduced himself as Waryong's father, and said he'd heard a lot about him from her. Peng Mu was excited because he couldn't look him in the eyes even though he had met him 3,000 times in his past life. This had never happened before. Namgung Jin said they are still talking, and as they all know, this agenda was set by the Tang and Peng families. They claim that the Magi attacked the secret black market auction. And if that's true, a bloody wind will blow on the Murim. But someone asked him to listen and asked him how they could believe the words of a boy who had milk on his lips. And why do they blindly believe him? A representative of the An family asked, what if he mistook Sapa for Magi? After all, the Becca group would be a great embarrassment to the Murim. Namgung Jin asked, is the perfect tiger blade just a young master? After all, they didn't even listen to him. You can't take it lightly. Peng Mu said that a follower of Chongpa and spiritual energy is subject to the will of heaven. A person must tangle along the path of justice so that the energy remains pure. Otherwise, he has the energy of a Sapa follower, and Meg, as part of Sapa, is going against the will of heaven, so they have the same energy. And the energy of the sword he felt then was undoubtedly demonic. The deputy head looked at him and was surprised that the younger boy had already noticed such a thing. Namgung Jin realized that the boy had insight and eloquence at such a young age. Namgung Jin said that the reasoning of the perfect tiger blade has raised the level of confidence. He received news from the Muriman today, and a group resembling a mage was seen moving around. It seems they've figured out the burial place of the god of war. The head of the Wangbo family said that his Wangbo family also received similar information, saying that the burial site is believed to be in Shandong or Jiangsu province. Peng Mu thought about it and realized that it seemed like the group resembling McGee didn't know the exact location of the burial site. The head said they should find the entrance before they do. Wanbo said they should start looking as soon as possible, if the treasure of the god of war falls into Mage's hands. But he was interrupted by Peng Mu and said that he thought they could use one thing he had brought with him. After seeing this half of the map, the head of the Jiggle family stood up and was surprised because it was a Changbodo map. Peng Mu told him he was right. It's an authentic item he got on the black market, and it seems to point to the entrance to the tomb of the god of war. Peng Mu asked if he could make a request to Namgung Jin's head. Namgung Jin said he would listen to him. The guy said since he is the first witness to Mage and owner of Changbodo, he would like to be part of the group that will be sent to find the burial site of the god of war, and take a couple people with you. Heavenly Swordsman Namgung Hyok and Poison Flower Dan Warin. The Dark Lord's man has come to report that they have discovered several sites, believed to be the tomb of the god of war, and are now investigating each of them. The Dark Lord said that all the Murim flock here when they smell profit, and he dares to tell him that they haven't even discovered the entrance. It's because Ho Sa-un couldn't bring the black market map. Pathetic bastards. A dark ruler is a member of the 9 rulers, which includes the young mages. The Dark Lord said, whoever dared to interfere with the plans of the strongest master of the dark path must disappear from the face of the earth. A team came to the territory of Sandon Fortress in the Taysan Mountains and hit the guys on the way. The guys told the honored ones to watch where they were going. The guy said he was sorry, and he took out his sword and cut the guy open and said he'd be more careful next time. People said that in the last few days, all the Murim are flocking to MT Taysan. The Kianpa and the Spa, all of them indiscriminately. They say they found the tomb of the god of war somewhere around here. It's where the treasure and secret teachings of the god of war are hidden. All of Murim dreams of them. The heir of the Jengal family said that Musong doesn't eat too much for nothing. He must have the energy to listen to the gossip. It's true, but they also say there's going to be a big battle on the mountain soon. He's the god of war for a reason, so it's going to be a bloodbath. Jengal asked Peng Mu, have you heard from Poison Flower and Heavenly Swordsman yet? The guy said that they haven't been in contact since they left to explore this morning. They should be back soon. Jengal said there are more people here than he expected. We can forget about sneaking into the tomb of the god of war. He had heard that not only the strongest families of Murim and the 10 schools had gathered here, but also the whole of Sedojian. It seems that there are already small and big fights going on. Jengal said that he thinks that someone is deliberately spreading rumors to sow death, and it's definitely the work of McGee's followers. But suddenly a man came to their table and said that they had just arrived at Taysan from Mucheon Palace and were looking for people to talk to, and they were having a heated discussion. They asked if they could join them. Jengal thought to himself that the people of the Muekon Palace had finally shown up. It was a huge clan that stood apart and practiced only the way of the warrior. The founder of Mujong Palace was the god of war himself. In other words, they are his rightful successors. Peng Mu kindly invited them to sit with them. The boys thanked the young warrior for letting them join them. One of them was Elder Ka, and the other was the heir to the Mujong Palace, Han Bek. Jengal said that in Satakan Iron Fist, in Jiangbei Heavenly Swordsman, and in Jiangnan Blade of Light, Huang Bang, and said that he was honored to meet him. Peng Musun also introduced himself and said he was from Hebei. Han Ben was surprised and said he was embarrassed that they knew him. Elder Ku said that the Bekka group, the Murimen and the losers from Chongpa, who honor the self-agreed alliances, and he was not even surprised that they all flocked like moths to the light when the legacy of the god of war appeared. And it seems Elder Ku said all their alliances are a pathetic sham. Jengal told him he was out of line. Bekka sent his warriors to quell the riots. The elder said they would all want their portion of pie too. Peng Mu said that Elder Ka believed that the tomb treasures were the property of Mucheon Palace. Of course Peng Mu said that all the heirs of the god of war should go to them, and in that case, the Mucheon Palace should take responsibility for all the disturbances that will arise on Mount Taysan because of the information about the tomb. Is he wrong? The boy asked. Or did they plan to get their hands on the treasure and not think about the rivers of blood they would spill? The elder said to Peng Mu, how dare he pass the responsibility on to them? Han Bek heard this talk and started laughing. Han Bo said that warrior Peng is right, although they consider themselves the successors of the god of war. But to be honest, They arrive too late and don't dare to claim the tomb. Hanbo believes that the god of war had a good reason to build the tomb and keep its existence a secret. For example, so that the treasure will take possession of the strongest. Remember, the way of the warrior god of war is the greatest martial art that has no equal, and only those who are truly worthy of this power will be able to seize it. Turning around, they thanked the guys for talking and said they would see them in the tomb, perfect tiger blade. Pengmu realized that Hanbo knew him. Zhengal said he felt stuffy and it would be good to open the window, and asked Pengmu what was more important, and he didn't know the guy was so eloquent. Mu Song said he was saying what he was thinking. When he looked at the glass and saw his reflection, he realized that the 10 schools, Baekga, Sedokian, and Mujong Palace were all gathered in one place. At this rate, a war could break out. If Mage also comes here, the tomb of the god of war will become a massacre site, and we can't delay any longer. But suddenly, Warun ran in with the words Brother Pan, and said in Mu Sung's ear that someone had found the entrance to the tomb. And it's a group of warriors and officials that don't belong to Chongpa or Sapa. But luckily, someone will hold them off for a while. This someone was the Buddha's best disciple Mugak, who asked them if they wanted this renegade fist to send them straight to heaven. Mugak did not wait long and used a fist of great insight, followed by a kick, guaranteeing a blissful rebirth. A virtuous Shaolin monk told Amitabha Buddha that the shame of Shaolin was on his conscience, and told someone to shut Mugak up. When the people stood in front of the cave, they asked their mentor why he was blocking their way. Even though Shaolin is one of the 9 schools, they have no right to stop them. The virtuous monk told the Myrians to wake up. At this rate, the tomb of the god of war will become a place where they will all be buried. The monk realized that things were not good, because in the face of the treasures and secret techniques of the god of war, everyone had lost their minds. A bloody battle was about to break out. What should we do, he wondered. After delivering a crushing blow, Pengmu said that he didn't think they would meet here, and asked if they were too late. It's been a long time, Mugak. Mugak said it's about time. It's been a long time, young master Pengmu Song. But suddenly, Mugak saw the enemies coming like a pack of dogs. Pengmu said they'd deal with them in one fell swoop. Mugak attacked them without fear and shouted to the great Buddha that he would send a couple more jerks to the dream world. Pengmu asked Mugak how did he end up here? What about his training in seclusion? Mugak said that his master told him to learn the way of the Azura in person. Mu Sung said he was upset that he wouldn't be there. How fortunate it was. Namgung asked Mugak if it was him. He said he was happy to meet him. Brother Peng told me a lot about him. Mugak asked him who he was. Peng said he was the heavenly swordsman Namgung Hek. He's like a big brother to him. Mugak said that he would call him big brother too. Namgung said that he was an interesting guy, but Warren intervened and told them to stop talking and get busy. Zhengal greeted the venerable preceptor. The monk told Venerable Zhengal that he was just in time and asked who had come with him. Zhengal said that they are the heavenly swordsmen, the perfect tiger blade and the poison flower of the Dan family. They are the strongest members of their families. The monk was surprised to hear the name of the heavenly messenger and told Zhengal to lead the swordsmen inside while they guarded the entrance. Jingle shouted to the swordsmen to go to the tomb, because it was urgent. Namnug shouted to the boys to follow him. Pengmu asked where they were going. Namnug said inside the tomb, but suddenly he saw that they were late and said that there were already many people at the entrance. But the monk shouted that there was another entrance. They stood behind each other and blocked the entrance. When the monk saw this, he realized that the boys were smart, and now he knew that he could be calm. When Warren entered the tomb, she was surprised and told everyone to look up. She said that the shining pearls, the tomb of the god of war, is still worthy of the attention of the entire Murim. Namgung asked Mugak if he was hurt. Mugak said not to worry, brother. No one can penetrate his iron tiger skin. Looking at the boys, Pengmu was happy that they were all together at last, his close and loyal friends. As they walked deeper into the area, Warren saw the needles and said it looked like they had been poisoned. The traps and needles were all new, and the poison had been applied recently. It was as if someone had gotten here before everyone else and placed the traps here. Pengmu asked if it was possible that Mage had arrived before all of them. Namgung saw the light and said they would go and find out for themselves. And it looks like the entrance is in that hole, so he told everyone to go quickly. When they went inside, they saw a bunch of deaths. and someone said that they thought they had dealt with them all, and then they had new guests. Waren realized that Master Sapa is a bloody elder without a soul, and a wandering swordsman of the dragon head blade. And with them are the Kionpa warriors. Waren couldn't believe her eyes. Namgung couldn't understand how the Kionpa joined Sapa in such a case. So he asked what the hell happened? Judging by the appearance, the bloody old man without a soul asked, "Are you the sons of the 5 great families and a Shaolin disciple? So you are the descendants of the Chongpa noble families." Baek Sanggong told the celestial swordsman that it had been a long time since they had seen each other. What a joy to meet him in a place like this. Waren said, "Aren't they Senior Baek Sanggam and Hyunhong Gwon, the valiant warriors of Kionpa at one with Sapa?" Namgung asked if this senseless massacre was also their doing. Sanggam said that he was too naive. It was not a senseless fight, but a way to get the treasures of the tomb. After all, what good is nobility and justice if they make you renounce your wealth? The bloody elder asked if those who were born into a noble family could understand people like them. Peng Mu said that there was one thing he didn't understand: someone had already passed on. "So why did you stay here?" the guy asked. The bloody elder said, "Why confront Sedokian and Mujong Palace at the same time? They'll kill each other anyway, and they'll be waiting for them at the exit." According to the map fragment, the tomb has only one entrance, so they still have to come back here. The elder realized that the heavenly swordsman was a difficult opponent. If the fight were to take place, one of them would surely lose his life. The elder told them why they should fight each other and suggested that they unite. He thought he would first let their guard down and then attack them stealthily, and told the guys not to worry about rumors. They'd kill everyone so no one would sully their names. Peng Mu told Namgung that there was no time to waste here. Namgung agreed with his brother and said that it was time to settle things quickly. Mu Gak said that he sees that there are only bastards here. Maybe we should even break our no-kill vow by killing them. The elder said it's that kind of arrogance that makes the young men annoying, and ordered his men to kill them all. As the elder watched the massacre, he thought that it was necessary to minimize casualties, because the battle with Sedokian or Mujong Palace was coming. Besides, that boy next to Namgung Hyun can't see his ability. The main thing is to take out those two and the fight will be over. Telling Peng San and Hyan Hong that the heavenly swordsman will be left for the 3 of them. But Namgung heard that and said that he would take them on. The elder shouted at Namgung that they would see what the heavenly swordsman was capable of. Someone turned to Peng Mu and called him a young man and said that he didn't know who he was, but he was pleased to see a sword in his hands, and offered him to fight as a master swordsman. Peng Mu, without flinching, smiled, said to them, "No problem." The elder and his wars tried to finish off Namgung, but each attack was futile, and the guy took them to pieces. The elder couldn't believe that he was alone against the 3 of them who had traveled a good portion of the Transcendent Master's path. He wasn't even out of breath. Namgung said they have forgotten what shame is, and he will no longer treat them as elders. While fighting off the 2 enemies, Namgung felt that his wrist would not hold. He used the azure mist to repel the sneak attack. Seeing this, the enemy was surprised by the azure mist, for it appears when using the Namgung family's endless sky technique. The enemy said that he thought Namgung was the only one who had mastered the technique at such a young age. Namgung laughed and said, "Let's not talk about age, because it's been a sore subject for him lately." The elder pounced on him and said that the sword technique of the infinite sky is embodied in the Namgung sky. Namgung asked if they could reach all the way to the sky with such abilities. The elder called the heavenly swordsman a bastard, after all, who knew that he was at the level of a transcendent master. Namgung sighed and said that he hoped that his brothers were also doing well. Seeing Peng Mu with his sword extended over the enemy's head, Namgung said that he was worried for nothing. The enemy told Peng Mu that he had lost, but they also shed blood for the sake of the goal. It's no different from them. Peng Mu said he was right and they are the same. The collision only happened because they're on different paths, and the first to fall is the one who uses up his strength first. And that's what Murim and martial artists are all about. The enemy asked him if he was a rising talent. Why is his spirit so strong? With the enemy falling before his feet, Peng Mu said that his spirit had no doubt and sought the right direction. This is the way of Kionpa. Go to the depths of the tomb. The 3rd young master of Sedokian told his enemies that they were nothing, and if they were outside, they wouldn't even look at him. Don't they know who he is? The enemies laughed and said they knew, "Isn't that Mr. Mugak who was forced out of the Battle of the Airs?" he asked. His enemies said that he was trying his best to get the treasure of the god of war and attract the attention of the head of Sadokian. The third gentleman told them they were so pathetic. But his friend told him to calm down and told him that vagabonds without basics would be a problem for him. The third master said that the damned bastards from Mucheon Palace have arrived. He asked how dare they reject his alliance proposal. Looking at them with a baleful gaze, the third lord said, "Blade of light." This cunning fox decided to drain his strength and stab him in the back. Elder Ka asked the heir how long they would waste time. The heir told the elder not to be so tense. He feels a real strong man approaching them now, too more likely, and he can't rashly get into a fight. It'd be embarrassing if they arrived before we'd settled this. But suddenly the smoke cleared. The guys couldn't figure out what it was. Could it be an organized attack by McGee? The heir asked if it was them. They had perfectly concealed not only the view, but also any traces of their presence. The heir shouted to the Mucheon Palace that the enemy was coming and ordered everyone to form two lines. The boys saw nothing. Raising his bloody sword, McGee said, "Let's kill each other in this impenetrable darkness." Lowly natives of Murim. Elder Ka stopped the heir and asked where he was going. The heir said he was leaving the formation to him. The heir said he would go for a short walk in the night. And without a thought, he moved into the darkness. The heir had incredible strength. He could see into the darkness and knocked out the enemy with a flick. It only took him 4 steps to enter. It looks very weak. Before he could say a word, the enemies were cut to pieces. The heir said, though he was ashamed of his nickname, he was called the Blade of Light. And they say his saber is so fast that you can't see anything but flashes of light. Standing in front of his enemies, Blade of Light decided to see if they would succeed in extinguishing his mage's radiance. The third heir got angry and shouted at the cowardly demonic bastard that he didn't even choose to stick his nose out. "Report to me now." Hei Mugak, the third young master of Sadokian, told the third young master that he now understood why the 5 great guards did not support him. The third heir was wounded and said he couldn't die here, and he must be recognized. McGee was unhappy that he was brought a boring opponent. It was a waste of his time. He hoped that the heir would be able to humor him. Blade of Light Han Ben-yu. After entering the cave that was covered in smoke, Warren asked, "What kind of creation is this?" Warren said it's not like a smoke screen or a poisonous fog. It's like it's living and breathing. Peng Mu said that this is the Dark Heaven Hiding Demon Formation. This is the Dark Demon Clan's battle formation from McGee. Peng Mu said he had read about it in their family's ancient books. The fog hides not only demonic chi, but also traces of presence, sight, and even sounds. For the Dark Demon Clan, there is no better environment to use their martial prowess. Namgung asked Brother Peng if he knew how to destroy it. Peng Mu said that the first thing to do was to break the flagpole that was set on the edge of the dark fog. And the most important center of the formation is hidden in the depths. In this case, Mugak will have to work a little harder. It's something only he can handle. Namgung walked into the fog and said to the guys, "It's inconvenient when you can't see anything and can't feel chi." Using his senses, he slashed those vile enemies. The fog began to clear and Namgung said that he thought Brother Pan was right. Namgung said he had the first priority taken care of. He decided to take a one-way walk. Warren saw that her eyes were no longer obstructed. The elder had also said that the dark mist was beginning to dissipate, and Peng Mu was right about the mist. Peng Mu told Mugak to stand in the center. Mugak told Peng Mu to give it to him. After slaying all of them, Peng Mu said that Shaolin martial prowess carries the power to exterminate demons. There is no better technique to destroy the demonic formation. Peng shouted to Mugak that the enemies were right in front of him. Mugak flew up on top of him and used 72 Shaolin art attack. Air Han Bo felt trouble again as the fog had dissipated again. Air Mage said that he had surprised him. He was fighting him as an equal inside the concealing demonic formation of the dark heavens. Han Bo couldn't make up his mind because of his strange fighting techniques, and what he should do. McGee said he was very pleased to see his confused face, and it was time to put an end to it. But suddenly he saw that in that direction was the center of the formation. Is this the light of Shaolin, he thought. Han Bo thought about it and said that it was the handiwork of a heavenly swordsman and a perfect tiger blade. The group of enemies saw that the darkness had receded, and now they had to gather their courage and attack. The follower of Mage told the dark demon people to use the demonic explosion skill so that no one would leave this place alive. McGee's follower pursued the heir. Finding him said they would have to determine the winner next time. The Blade of Light saw that all his men had been defeated, and he was left alone in the center of the many bloods. A follower of McGee said that the plan to defeat the Murim scum had failed, and it was necessary to hide the treasure of the god of war and leave as soon as possible. Peng Mu asked where this rat was hiding. Under his leadership is the Dark Demon Clan. Is he the Dark Ruler? Asked Peng Mu. Han Bo found the elder behind a huge rock and asked if he was all right. But suddenly he heard a familiar voice saying that the elder was fine. He had only fainted briefly. Namgung said they hadn't seen the Blade of Light in a long time. He said that they had dealt with all the followers of McGee in the area, so he didn't have to worry. Han Bo asked how they managed to deal with such a huge number. Namgung said that they were using a technique that provoked an explosion, so if we destroyed their dantian, it could be prevented. Namgung said that the magician told him about it. The magician asked Han Bo in surprise. Namgung said that Peng Mu's strength is comparable to a mad ruler. If there are strong warriors like Yongbangji in the Murim, then there are 9 young masters and 9 rulers in the Mage. And here only the strongest survive and natural selection reigns supreme. This is the unqualified motto under which the Meg warriors were born and raised. They are the 9 rulers. From the age of 5 they started killing countless competitors to take this place. The follower of McGee began to get angry and wondered who the hell he was to look at him with eyes that had experienced more chaos than them. But Mage was wrong, because he thought that among the young masters, only the heavenly swordsman, Blade of Light, and Iron Fist could fight with him as equals. After dealing a crushing blow to McGee's representative, he asked who he was. Peng Mu said he wasn't sure if the news had reached McGee. If he said that he bought it on the black market, would that make it clearer? That's right, the follower of Mage laughed and said, so he is the perfect tiger blade of Peng Mu song. Maybe things would be different inside the concealing formation, but now he was admitting his defeat. He won't go to the other world alone, said the demon. Pan's existence is a great hindrance to McGee. Peng Mu noticed that there was something wrong and asked him if he was using the demonic explosion. Why the explosion? The demon asked. The guy said it was no use because he'd just made a little joke of his jaw. Good job, now get out of my sight. Peng Mu said it was easier than he thought. But suddenly he heard the voices of the boys. Warren asked if he was okay. Peng said he was fine and asked if anyone was hurt. The guys said they were fine. Looking at the Mage follower, Han Bo couldn't believe that Peng had defeated a demonic follower that even he had a hard time fighting. He said that he wanted to see the power of the perfect tiger cling. Namgung said that apparently McGee's follower was the villain. Turns out little brother Peng did a good job. Then there is no need to fight anymore. But Elder Ka said that the battle is not over yet. The boy told the elder that it was now up to him to choose the true master of the tomb of the god of war. Elder Ka said it would be better for them to retreat. After all, they had achieved their goal of saving as many Murim followers as possible. Mugak got angry and said that the old man was out of his mind. They had set the table, but he was going to eat everything and leave. Erhan Bo asked the elder what he meant. The elder told the heir that there was a high probability that they would find the palace treasure, the divine weapons of the 5 regions, and that they should not give it to outsiders. The heir said he knew and told the elder to calm down, because he would take care of everything. The heir approached the perfect tiger blade and asked if he remembered their conversation at the inn. Peng said that Han Bo had said that the strongest would get the treasure. The heir said that he still thought so, and suggested that the boy organize a competition. Namgung told brother Peng to rest, for the matter could not be solved with words. And taking up the sword, the heir's boys also realized swords. Namgung said, if you think about it, the conversation was about that too. The Council of 100 Families only wants to suppress the massacres and riots. Peng Mu said, as Elder Ka said, their goals have already been achieved. That's why they are giving up the treasure of the tomb of the god of war. Everyone was surprised by the guy's words, and he said that there was a Buddhist monk among them. Let them all stay here and rest the souls of the dead. Han Bo said that he is the heir to the Mujong Palace and he apologizes. And they will not forget the grace of this day. The heir knew that this battle was already lost, so he told Elder Ka to leave. As he left, he told the perfect tiger blade that they would see each other again. Hugak got angry and asked, what kind of stupid act is this? how to boil porridge and give it to the dog. Did Peng Mu do? Namgung told the boys not to attack like that, because if they got the treasure, the relationship with Mujong Palace would be ruined. Brother Peng must have taken that into consideration. Just as offended thought Peng, the heir is very prescient. In the past life, because of the useless psychological warfare, the alliance of the Mucheon Palace and Muraman misfired and lost the Great War. Peng Mu said that the map shows that there is a final plaza ahead. The treasure is probably hidden there. However, he accidentally set fire to the back of the map. Didn't expect to see a secret passage, asked Peng Mu. The boys were surprised at Pan's words, and he told them all to go and find the true treasure of the tomb of the god of war. The divine weapons of the 5 regions belonging to the god of war, in addition to the yellow dragon armor already in the palace of Muchong, for items have been hidden from view for a long time. As Elder Ka suggested to Peng Mu, these 4 divine weapons are on the edge of the war god's tomb, and if his memory serves him correctly, there are more valuable items buried there. When Peng Mu saw the chest, he said that they had found the war god's techniques, which contained the legacy of martial arts. In his past life, the mage had commandeered everything from divine weapons of the 5 regions to secret techniques. Peng Mu is sure that the head of the mage has seen them too. The boys kept the discovered teachings of the god of war a secret, and promised each other that they would each go to master them. The Magi lost their treasure and their army. Their strategy failed. A few weeks later, there was a training session going on in the training ground of the Peng family's main residence. The young heir approached the teacher and said to Chul Ho, "It's been a long time," and Mr. Peng Mu said, "Returned," and he completed the united campaign. The deputy chief told the kid that they'd relayed that he'd distinguished himself at the tomb of the god of war, and saved Muram's followers and even destroyed Magi's men. "Commendable, commendable," said the deputy. He didn't think that one of the legitimate sons of the Peng family would complete the spiritual path of the tiger so soon. Peng Mu said that the reason he was in a hurry to return was because of a news he heard. The deputy said that the guy already knew the circumstances. The older brother had a chi deviation while honing his martial skills and fell into unconsciousness. He went to extremes to revive his family, and they threw all their energies into his recovery. But his condition is so severe that he can't even receive guests. The deputy told Mu Song that he didn't worry about him too much, because his brother was strong and he would soon get back on his feet. Peng Mu felt uneasy, and now the only thing he could do was to go to the Peng family library. After seeing him, all the readers began to say that the Lord had saved the black market from the demonic beasts of Mage, and even protected the tomb of the god of war, and the news that he single-handedly defeated the Jokryong clan. And because of that, they have the support of the Kimjok Trade Guild. The boys surrounded him, but the heir paid no attention, and the boys said that it seemed to them that the C=4th gentleman might be the heir. Reading the book, the boy thought, although he had received the secret teachings of the god of war, but it was simply impossible to master it all. A deeper study is needed. After all, there is no one who can realize it now. The technique named the strongest in the Peng family, the Thunder Saber of Chaos Primordial. The head of the family got sick while trying to restore it, and the guy decided that he would finish it with his own hands, by all means. A gathering was held in the training area of the Black Lord's estate. The guy was very hungry and wished everyone a good appetite. Sitting at the table, Peng Mu said that he saw a couple of people from the Peng family guards in his past life. But suddenly, he noticed a guy he knew very well. A guy approached the black-hearted gentleman. He said his name was Peng Song, and if he didn't mind, let him fill his cup. Peng Mu took the bottle in his hands and said, "No need to," for he had guessed and filled their cups himself. He approached a man familiar to him and offered to fill his cup, but he was disrespectful and filled his own cup. Doc Sam asked the 4th gentleman if he wanted to be the head of the family so badly, and if he does, what can he change? Obviously, the Peng family will remain weak even then. But suddenly, the elder told him to be quiet and apologized to the master. Peng Mu remembered the man asking him how Peng's family would know that he loved her so much, and in a past life, he had clutched the hand of Doc Sam who was dying in his place. He couldn't utter a word of comfort. Peng Mu said he was right that they are weak and incapable of doing anything now. However, he will create a new Peng family, make him the strongest so they can go through life proud of the title of warrior. Their sweat and blood will be recognized by their family, other clans, and the world. Holding out the cup, the guy told him to take it, Doc Sam said he was sure to keep his word. After drinking a couple of cups, Doc Sam told the fourth gentleman that he would follow him for life. Sitting at the table with the guys, Chulho said that Doc Sam is still unconscious. The young master must have had a hard time. Peng Mu said that drinking is weaker than it looks. And yet, what was it like when Chulho asked? After all, he didn't separate them by rank and background. He gathered all the able-bodied guys with strong wills. Peng Mu said he liked them. Just look at their love for the Peng family, talent and character. And he will also drop by for training sometimes. The defender raised his hand and asked him if he was sure he was hurt anywhere. But the guy told her to tell her what happened to her. The defense counsel said, to be honest, it looks like the older gentleman has studied her surroundings. And she thinks he found out she's a murderer. And he also got close to Hebei's top assassin clan, the Blood Tier clan. The guy said a bunch of assassins can't hurt them. Jie Wool said their goal was to get rid of more than just them. What does she mean? Peng asked. Jie Wool said that not only the fourth master's life is in danger. When Mu Song came to the courtyard of the Shining Tiger, he completed the spiritual path of the tiger. The first heir said that the rising star Yongbangji, the perfect tiger blade that defeated McGee and protected the tomb of the god of war. The heir said that Peng Mu Song is the heir and candidate. Who would have thought that the pathetic junior would hear this? The guard said the top Peng family got to him. He knows they don't like the He family of Jinzhou. It looks like they're planning to eliminate the On family warriors after making Peng Mu Song the heir. The first heir said it was obvious. He asked Ji what he should do. He felt that all his efforts had turned to foam, and if it goes on like this, they're both dead. He told Ji to calm down because he knows that this is the fake document of Peng Mu Song's attempted assassination. Just by looking at it, anyone would think that Peng Xiao tried to kill his brother. The heir asked him why he was showing it to him. He Ji said that they will distribute this document around the Peng family and kill Peng Sohyok. Oh Hell from the best assassin mercenary clan appeared and said, and after that, they will frame it as Peng Mu Song's revenge. Who is the heir to Oh Howl? Who should be lying here?
Jung Mu Sung, not Peng Ji Hieo.
And asked Oh Howl, should he believe him again? Oh Hell said he understands the Lord's distrust. That incident was a single misfire and a disgrace to their clan. The next time he comes here, he'll be burying two younger brothers.